Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Had Dissociative Identity Disorder and Becomes No.1 Vigilante Spiderman Part 2. Before we start, please go support Luis on 2234V for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. Friends are not what they seem. Everyone, do you know each other? They all said, surprised. Ibara, do you know Harry Oscorp, darling? She said, surprising Harry. Harry, honey? Really? Did you get a girlfriend? He said, laughing. Izuku, it's just that your mother didn't accept me, he said, laughing so that Ibra started hitting his arm. Okay, I'm sorry, he said, stroking Ibra's hair. Harry, you know what, Michael, guide them all. I have to make up some time with my friend, he said, walking towards Izuku. Come on, brother, he said, hugging him by the shoulders. Izuku, come on, Ibara, I'll be back for the time you're done, he said, giving her a kiss on the lips. Everyone came out of the trade and continued their walk. As for Izuku and Harry, they were in a river throwing stones. Harry, so you're telling me that your power evolved? He said, surprised. Wow. Izuku, yes, my power can now, he said this, but Harry interrupted him. Harry, you know, buddy, the only reason I came back is to find Spider-Man. Don't take it personally. I'm glad to meet you again, but unfortunately, I'm sick. Do you remember my father's illness? He said so that Izuku would nod. Well, the illness was inherited. But don't worry, I found a cure, he said. Looking at Izuku, Spider-Man's blood, he said, worrying Izuku. Izuku, and why is Spider-Man's blood? He said, surprised. Harry, spiders have a very impressive healing factor. I've seen Spider-Man on video, he has it too. So my theory is that if I can formulate his blood, I'll be able to make a cure. Isn't that great, he said, looking at Izuku with a smile. Izuku, amazing, he said with a fake smile as he continued throwing rocks. Harry, I have another plan though. But don't tell anyone, it's a bit illegal, he said, scratching his head. Izuku, Harry, what? Harry, I have a girl who is able to rewind bodies. If I can get her to cooperate with me, I can make her rewind my body to the point of not having that disease, he said, looking at Izuku. Isn't it great? Izuku, Harry, that's kidnapping, he said, annoyed to see how the smile on Harry's face faded. Harry, you won't support me? He said seriously. Izuku, Harry, you separated a girl from her family just to save yourself? He said, but Harry looked away. No, Harry, what did you do to her family? He said angrily. Harry, I was a nuisance, he said angrily. I thought you would help me. You are just like the others. You care about strangers before your best friend, he said, leaving. You must return to the excursion, Izuku, he said angrily. Izuku, Harry, you must release that girl, he said angrily. Harry, of course I will, when I fulfill my mission, he said, leaving. Izuku quickly went to where his companions were, where they greeted him with a smile and asked him how it went with Harry. He, with a fake smile, told them that he was fine. He walked away without them realizing it, and then he hastily went to where Aizawa went and told him the whole situation. Izuku, tonight I will save her. You will go to the hotel and I will save her, he said with a determined look. Aizawa, it's okay, just be careful, brat, he said, taking him by the shoulder. After that, the excursion ended. The students went to the hotel, where Ibra was in Izuku's room but was surprised not to see him there. She went out to the balcony and could see how Izuku had his Spider-Man suit on and was swinging through the buildings. Ibra saw him, only put on a smile, but that smile disappeared when something took her. Electro, it's good to meet Spider-Man's girlfriend, he said, this scaring Ibra. With Izuku. He was arriving at the Oscorp buildings when he could see an open window that led to a room where what he saw terrified him. There was an Alvina girl with a horn on her forehead with cuts and burns tied to a chair, and next to her was Harry. Harry, come on, brat, just rewind me and we'll all get out of here, he said angrily. Harry, I don't want to, you killed my family, you're bad, I shouldn't have to help you, she said, crying. Harry, brat, he said, this about to hit her, but a spider web held Harry, breaking the ropes. I knew you would come, Spider-Man. Or should I say Izuku, he said, impacting Izuku. Izuku, how do you know? He said in shock. Harry, I just know. Hey, you shouldn't leave your girlfriend so alone on a balcony at night. Whatever, Sparky, she could hurt you, he said, laughing. Let's see if you can save her, Spider-Man, he said, getting on what looked like some kind of jet and flying away. Izuku, I don't have time, he said this one to tie Eri with cobwebs behind his back. Very well, girl, nothing will happen to you, just close your eyes when I tell you, we will get out of this, he said this one so that the girl agreed in fear. Izuku began to chase Harry, but what he saw left him in shock. He saw Ibra tied to a clock hand. She was afraid, she was scared. Electro. Hello again, old man, but he couldn't finish speaking because Izuku, with all the hatred he had, grabbed his face and threw him against a fire hydrant, fracturing his neck and leaving him dead. This one, with all the courage in the world, saw Harry, who had a smile. Harry, oh, that rubbish wasn't much use, he said, somewhat annoyed. Let's do something better, friend. It's 11:50. At 12 the needle will cut the rope where your girlfriend is tied. She has an anti-quirk drug that prohibits her from using her vines to hold on. If you manage to defeat me in 10 minutes you will save her, if not, she will die, he said with a smile. At this point the case was already being documented. All the students watched this with fear. They all wondered when it happened. From one moment to the next they kidnapped Ibra. The good thing is that it was only local news, so Ibra's parents hadn't found out. Everyone encouraged Izuku. Izuku, leave her out of this, he said angrily. Harry, hey, why are you mad at me? You knew the risks of being Spider-Man. This is all your fault. If you hadn't become her boyfriend, she wouldn't be in this situation. Ibara, don't listen to him, Izuku, you can win, she said with fear. Harry, tic-tac hero, he said, lunging at Izuku. Izuku, Eri, close your eyes, he said this so that Eri would do what he asked. Harry lunged at Izuku with the intention of burying the blades of his air glider, but Izuku dodged them with his spider sense and was able to grab Harry with his webs and throw him. The battle continued. Everyone encouraged Izuku. There was only a minute left when Izuku managed to knock Harry unconscious. He quickly went up to untie Ibra, but it was too late. The rope broke. Ibra was falling. Izuku quickly threw a web at Ibra's chest, but it was too late. The web did not arrive in time. Crack. It was the sound that was heard as Ibra's back broke as she fell to the ground. The news recorded everything. Both of their classmates were crying profusely. Izuku just approached Ibra's body. Izuku, Ibra, no, Ibra, look at me. Don't go, don't go. You're the only thing I have, Ibra, he said, crying. It was useless. Ibra had died. He just sat on the floor where he began to cry, holding on to his legs. Everyone looked at this with tears. The hero won, but lost. But not everything was lost. There was a small sun of hope. Eri, I can save her, she said while looking at Izuku. My quirk is rewind. I can return her to the previous state. She said this so that Izuku would look up. Izuku, girl, you are my last hope. Do it, he said this for Eri to nod. Eri slowly put her hands on Ibara's body and a golden glow appeared. Izuku watched as little by little Ibara's body began to move until Eri fell silent. Izuku, did it work? He said hopefully. A cough, coming from Ibara, was enough to confirm his theory. Ibara, what happened to me? She said, lying on the ground. Izuku, she said, standing up abruptly just to see Izuku crying. Izuku, you're alive, he said with tears. Ibara, did I die? She said confused. Eri woke up and told him everything. Ibara, Izuku, she said, hugging him, I'm here, don't cry anymore. I'm fine, she said this, but it wasn't enough. Izuku sank into Ibara's chest where he began to cry profusely. All the media watched this happily. The girl was alive. Her companions were glad that Ibara was okay. With them. Izuku screamed into Ibara's chest. She just started to caress his hair while this was happening. Izuku fell exhausted and fainted from exhaustion. Eraser, Vlad and Midnight arrived at the scene to take the three boys away. Everyone came up to him and started applauding Spider-Man, and they also threw words at Ibara. Person 1, never leave him. Person 2, make him happy, he deserves it. I'm his friend, my name is Stand. He's told me a lot of things about you. Take care of him, he said with a smile. Ibara just smiled and answered with complete sincerity. Ibara, yes, that's it, she said with a smile. After that, everyone arrived at the hotel where they hugged Ibara with tears in their eyes. She was happy that her companions were worried about her. Eraser just laid Izuku down on the couch, where after a few moments he woke up and the first thing he saw was Aizawa. Izuku, where is he? He said crying. Tell me he's okay, he said grabbing Aizawa's shirt. Aizawa, boy, she's fine, That brat here revived her, he said, gently pushing Eri towards where the boy was. Izuku, with the little strength he had, given Eri a hug that the girl had never felt before, a hug full of love. The girl also began to cry while Izuku slowly released the hug. Izuku, where is it? He said this. Aizawa, look behind you, he said this so that Izuku turned around and again couldn't hold back his tears. Ibara, Izuku, he said, this one also crying. Izuku quickly began to hug Ibra with all the strength he had left. He was crying buckets. His companions joined the hug, but Izuku did not care. He was on Ibara's chest screaming where he released all the pain. He was happy. Because Ibra was alive, he could not stand to see her die. Although it hurt him, he came to a decision. Izuku, I don't want to, he said, looking at everyone. Ibara, you don't want me to, honey, she said, looking at Izuku. Izuku, I don't want you to end up in my problems. Because you are Spider-Man, I saw you die. If Eri hadn't been with me, the story would have been different. I'll leave, he said, surprising everyone. I don't want you to end up badly. I love you, but I can't stand to see you hurt. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I'll stay away from everyone, he said, but received a slap and a hug from Ibara. Ibara, I don't care. But you won't leave. I decided to be your girlfriend, to be Spider-Man's girlfriend. Your problems are my problems, and hurting me is going to be part of my job, because I also want to be a heroine. I don't want to be the damsel in distress. I want to be your partner, she said this so that Izuku, holding back his tears, gave her a big kiss, a kiss full of love, which Ibara reciprocated. Everyone watched this scene with tenderness, until someone slammed the door. Bakugo, bucking nerd, are you okay? He said, looking at Ibara. Holy shit, she's still alive, he said, pointing at Ibara. Everyone at that moment was surprised to see Bakugo. They were going to kick him out, but Izuku told him the situation, so he was left alone knowing that Izuku was fine. Izuku, well, I think it's time for me to go to sleep. If you'll excuse me, he said while carrying Ibara. I'm leaving, he said as he left. After that, everyone retired to their rooms. Ibara, are you okay, Izuku? She said while stroking her hair. I'm sorry about the slap, she said while looking down. Izuku, I needed it. For a moment I thought that getting away from you would be the best thing, but I realized that you are also a heroine, and you will not only be my work partner, you will also be my life partner. He said this so that Ibara slowly began to shed tears. Ibara, yes, she said with a smile. And so the two fell asleep. Clearly Izuku fell asleep on Ibara's, but she just laughed. But she liked that Izuku liked her, but she blushed and just fell asleep, but not before giving Izuku a kiss. Ibara, I love you, he said, kissing him. Izuku, me too, he said, returning the kiss. After that, the two fell asleep to rest from their big day. In another place. Izumi, the useless one, did it, he said, looking at his phone. Is what Mom told me true? He said, sinking into his pillow. A fugitive. We meet the next day with an Izuku waking up in a peculiar way. He had his girlfriend hugged as if it were the last day of his life. Ibra woke up little by little due to the pressure, and when she woke up she could feel some light drops fall on her face. They were Izuku's tears. He quickly hugged him and put him on his chest, caressing his hair. Ibra, what's wrong, honey? She said worriedly. Izuku, it's just that, I saw you die, he said, crying. I saw how the light of my life went away, how the only person I had left, how the love of my life died, he said, hugging Ibra even more. I don't want that to happen to you, not again, he said while Ibra caressed his hair. Ibra, and you won't, she said with a smile. Even so, I have to come back from the dead to be with you, so it will be, because I love you, she said, so that Izuku widened his eyes while he wiped away his tears. Izuku, yes, he said, hugging Ibara. Ibara, I love you, never forget it, she said while kissing Izuku. Izuku, me too, he said, kissing her. Ibara, let's eat, she said while holding Izuku's hand. Izuku, yes, but I cook. You are better at kissing than cooking, he said, kissing Ibara while she was making a stew. Don't be mad. Come on, he said, shaking Ibara's hand. After that they went down where they didn't find anyone. Everyone was still asleep. So Izuku started cooking for himself and his girlfriend. But the smell of the food reached all the students in both classes. Everyone started to go down just to see how Ibra helped Izuku pass her ingredients while he cooked. Izuku, oh, you're awake, he said, smiling. Sit down. I'll serve you breakfast now. You sit down too, darling. I'll serve it to you now, he said, kissing Ibara. Ibara, yes, she said as she went to sit down. After Izuku finished cooking, he began to serve the dishes. There were 41 students. The good thing was that there was enough food for everyone, since the hotel they rented was like their dormitories. They could cook for themselves. Thanks for the food, they all said in unison, putting their hands together and taking a bite. It's delicious, they said in unison. Bakugo. Bucking nerd, this tastes horrible, he said, finishing his plate. Give me more, he said, making everyone sweat. After a few thanks and congratulations from everyone, Izuku was finally able to eat. Everyone stayed to wait for him to finish. Everyone was happy, until someone turned on the television and put on the news. Reporter, breaking news, Spider-Man is being wanted for first-degree murder, she said, showing a photo of Electro with his neck broken and dead, shocking everyone. Izuku, what? He said in shock. Reporter, if you see Izuku Midoriya, report it quickly to number 911. He also usually uses a white mask that seems to have a smile. Spider-Man, if you are seeing this, turn yourself in. Do not make the problem bigger. She said this so that Ibra would turn off the television. Ibra just hugged Izuku. She made a cocoon with her vines. Ibra, it's just a precaution, she said, making everyone sweat. Is someone going to betray us? She said seriously. No, never, they all said with a hand on their chest. Ibra, that's good, she said, undoing the cocoon. Izuku, it was necessary. He was in a place of electricity. He could become strong to the point of having no rival. It was necessary, he said, scared and nervous. Yui, don't worry, she said, stroking her hair. It was to save her, she said, looking at Ibra. We know you wouldn't kill anyone. She said this so Izuku would calm down a little. At that point, everyone hears the door open and stands guard, but they see Shuka and Bakugo looking very tired. Shuka, you have to get out of here, she said tiredly. Bakugo, Endeavor is looking for you, he said, but he couldn't finish because he was sent flying by a flame. Endeavor, there you are, brat. I already knew that I was not wrong about you. Izuku Midoriya, you are under arrest for first-degree murder. If you resist, I will be forced to use force. Or looking at Ibra, he said with a sly smile. Izuku, don't touch her, he said seriously. It was necessary to kill him. He was in the largest energy source in Japan. If he absorbed it, he would have become stronger than you and All Might together, he said seriously. Endeavor, ha ha ha, that's impossible, brat. No one is stronger than me, he said with pride and arrogance. Give yourself up quickly before something happens to your girlfriend. And for every word you say right now, I will hit her, he said, scaring Ibra. Izuku saw Ibra's expression, but he knew he couldn't fight Endeavor, so with all his hatred he kept quiet. Endeavor, yes, I like it, he said, giving Izuku a punch in the stomach. Izuku with all his effort was able to remain silent and not scream from that blow. Ibra just cried. Izuku was being tortured because of her. She wanted to do something, but she didn't know what. She was scared, but she gathered her courage and took Endeavor's arm with one of her vines, and with the other she hit him in the face, scratching him. Endeavor was left in shock. A brat managed to hurt him. This shock turned into immense fury against Ibra. Endeavor, your boyfriend sacrificed himself for you. Apparently it was in vain because I'm going to kill you anyway, he said, preparing a fist of fire. Everyone saw this in slow motion. Endeavor launched his fist of fire against Ibra. She just closed her eyes, but that fist never arrived. She was horrified to see how Izuku was in front of her with his hands cuffed, and with a large burn on his chest. Endeavor, so the damn trash still has strength, he said, laughing. Well, take it, he said, giving him a kick that sent him against the wall, breaking a couple of ribs. But Izuku got up. Why are you getting up, brat? She's just a girlfriend. Are you really going to do all this for your first love, he said, laughing, astonishing everyone. I know she's your first girlfriend, brat, just as I know everything they did to you. Why don't you come back? Why are you only in those stupid tights from top to bottom? Why do you defend them after what they did to you, he said, annoyed. Izuku, it's easy, Flammidas, he said, putting on his Spider-Man mask. I defend her because she was the first girl who truly accepted me, the first who loved me for who I am, the first to accept me, he said, shouting so that Ibra put on a proud smile. And you know why I get up? Because the day I decided to use the mask, the Spider-Man mask, I knew that one day I would die. But you know, every time I fall I find a way to get up. And you know what is the best second of shit? Or should I say third place, since if I were a professional hero I would be top 2, he said, laughing. How does that feel, big guy, he said, annoying Endeavor to unimaginable levels. Endeavor, damn Brett, he said, preparing his most powerful attack. Izuku only saw the boys, he could no longer move, he only saw Ibra and said something to her that would leave her in shock. Izuku, I'm sorry, I think I won't have any more affection, he said with a smile to make Ibra cry. The blow came, a large cloud of dust appeared. Ibra, no, he said, he is crying. But everyone was happy when they heard Izuku's voice. Izuku, damn, I'm alive, he said, shading everyone. All Might, that's right, young Midoriya, sorry for being late, he said with his classic smile. Izuku, you're kidding, old man, you're my hero, he said, smiling, making All Might smile too. Endeavor, what are you doing defending this criminal Toshi? He said this annoyed. Nizu, better said, you are the criminal, Endeavor, he said seriously, surprising everyone. You used your quirk without a license, and tried to kill a hero. Endeavor, you are arrested for your actions against the heroic society and against your family, he said, surprising all. Shuka at that moment opened her eyes with small tears. Shuka, how do you know? She said with great happiness. Finally the old man, as she tells him, would pay for everything. Nizu, Spider-Man is not the only superhero. Izuku Midoriya is too, he said with a smile, so that Shuka began to cry with happiness seeing Izuku being cured by Ibra. He collected information all this time. Hey, he has even been visiting your mother so that she can get better little by little. Miss Ray now looks at Izuku as a son and he as a mother. He visits her every Sunday to see her progress. Mississippi Shuka, you should go see her. Your progress thanks to young Midoriya was excellent, she said while Shuka put on a sincere smile with tears of happiness. Shuka, yes, he said, nodding with a big smile while looking at Izuku. Thank you, Izuku, he said, smiling. Izuku, honey, how much longer? He said, moaning in pain. Ibra, your wounds are serious, but nothing that I can heal, she said with a smile. Izuku, I love that you know how to heal me, he said, laughing. Oh, my ribs, he said, grimacing in pain. Ibra, well, because of your crazy things I had to learn to do it, but I don't care, he said, kissing Izuku. I love you, he said with a smile. Izuku, I love you too, darling, he said between moans of pain. Ibra, don't talk anymore, it will hurt more, she said, laughing a little. Nizu, young Midoriya, he said looking at Izuku. All Might, young man, your situation was clarified, and it was shown what could happen if you didn't finish off that villain. People accepted it, because they know that you are a born superhero, he said with a smile. Izuku, old man, you are my idol, he said this so that everyone started laughing. Bakugo, what happened to me, he said waking up. Izuku, Endeavor fainted you, and when he saw you he said, Culito Dormido has no owner. He said this so that Bakugo would open his eyes. Bakugo, no way, did he grape me? He said, distressed. Izuku, no, of course not, I'm just lying to you, he said laughing. Bakugo, damn you, he said giving him an explosion in the face. Izuku, well, I deserve it, he said with pain. After Ibra healed Izuku, she took him to her room where she stayed with him. The others did what they had to do, some went to the mall, others to train, and Nizu and All Might went to see what Endeavor's sentence would be like. Ibara, how do you feel, darling? She said, hugging her boyfriend. Izuku, well, I was a criminal fugitive for 2 hours and Endeavor was arrested. I solved Shuka's family problems. A normal day, he said this so Ibara started laughing. Ibara, I don't know where you get so much strength and energy, she said laughing. Izuku, from my engine, he said looking at Ibara while kissing her. Ibara, you know, you worked hard today, you deserve a reward, she said blushing. Izuku, oh, that's it? He said with a flirtatious smile. Little lemon. Ibara began to unbutton the green-haired boy's zipper, revealing his boxers and taking out his member. Ibara began to lick it slowly since it didn't all fit in her mouth. Izuku began to give small moans of pleasure while Ibara licked it. 30 minutes passed, and Ibara continued until Izuku said, Izuku, I'm coming, he said panting. Ibara, do it in my mouth, she said, putting the green-haired man's member even deeper into her mouth. Ibara felt like she was going to faint from that huge discharge that fell in her mouth. she sat on Izuku's lap between gasps to continue. After they continued with their night, the two fell exhausted into bed, hugging each other. Izuku, I love you, he said, sleeping on Ibara's butt, who had already changed. Ibara, I love you too, she said, laughing a little because Izuku started playing with her butt. Izuku, I love this ass, he said, this making Ibara blush. It smells so good, and it's very round, firm and comfortable, he said, this making Ibara blush to abysmal levels. Ibara, pervert, she said, patting him on the chest. I'm glad you like it, she said, sinking into the green-haired boy's chest. Izuku, I love it, he said, hugging Ibara, but I love your face more, he said, giving her kisses all over her face. I love you, he said, to fall asleep. Ibara, me too, Izuku, sleep well, he said, to fall asleep, putting his head on top of the green-haired boy's. In another place. Izuku, so you're telling me that a multiverse could exist? Said a smaller Izuku, with disheveled hair and a less muscular build. May, that's right, 10 million. Right now I'm giving it the final touches, and if I succeed I could confirm a theory, which is, in your dimension you disappear automatically, it will pause, and when you return you will be at the exact moment as when you left, he said, amazing Izuku. Izuku, wow, you can try it, said the green-haired boy excitedly. May, yes, just let me give it the little touches. Izuku, this will be great, he said excitedly. May, yes it will be, she said with a smile. I found my best friend, and it's me, non-canon. Earth 1. Class A/B, you're telling us that there is a multiverse, they all said, surprised seeing May's great machine. May, exactly, she said, probably test subject. You can operate the machine, she said, so Izuku would nod. The machine quickly began to emit a purple light. May, let's see what we find, she said while pulling a lever. Minutes before. We find an Izuku waking up in the hotel with his girlfriend. Izuku, this ass, my god, is so comfortable, he said, settling further into Ibara's ass. Ibara, Izuku, she said with embarrassment, if you like it so much, she said, playing with her fingers. Try it, she said with a shy rogue tone. Izuku, oh yeah, he said while taking off his shirt and pants, leaving only in boxers. I'm ready, he said, waiting for an answer. Honey? He said, but he was in shock when he saw Ibara in black and white. Ibara? He asked, worried, but quickly noticed how a fly that was in the room also stood up. But what the hell, he said when realizing that everything was in black and white. Shit, he said, putting on only pants, leaving the room, seeing everyone in black and white. Shit, what is that? He said, seeing a portal in the sky, and went out to the balcony. Okay, this was a terrible idea, he said, holding on to the balcony, being sucked by the portal. Why does it only suck me in? He said, crying comically when he saw that only he was being pulled. Izuku ultimately couldn't stand the pressure of the portal, and ended up being sucked in. Earth 1. May, I found something, she said, this so everyone would pay attention. Everyone? Seriously? They all asked, impressed. May, we see what it is, she said while pulling down a lever. At the moment May did that, you could see a person being thrown out of the portal, crashing straight into a tree. Izuku, oh shit, where am I? He said, getting up. On my mask, he said, seeing how he had his usual mask next to him and Spider-Man's in his pocket. He quickly put on his normal mask just in case and began to walk. After walking a bit, he managed to see a handful of people and was amazed to see that they were his classmates, Class A1 May. Izuku, oh guys are okay, he said, approaching everyone. Everyone was confused by the strange boy and who he was since he seemed to know them. Izuku, guys, you don't know. You were in black and white, then a portal sucked me in, but how did we get to the academy if we were in a hotel, he said, confusing everyone, but in the distance he sees Ibara. Izuku quickly approached Ibara, putting everyone on alert, but they were surprised to see how he hugged her. Izuku, oh Ibara, thank God you're okay. I got a little scared when I saw you in black and white, but we're here now, he said, confusing the girl. Ibara, excuse me, who are you? And how do you know my name? He said this, confusing Izuku. Izuku, Ibara, it's me, your boyfriend, he said, taking off the mask only from his mouth. Ibara, and boyfriend? She said, blushing. Izuku, yes, there are no more games, he said while kissing Ibara. Could you tell me how we got here? He said, but was quickly pushed away by Ibara. Honey, what's wrong? He said, worried. May, hey kid, I could answer that for you, she said, a little excited. You are not from this world. I brought you here so you can tell us what your world is like, she said, making Izuku angry. Momo, hey, in your world, how am I? By the way, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Momo Yayorozu, she said with a smile. Izuku, well, you're Bakugo's girlfriend, she said this so that everyone would be surprised. Everyone, what? Everyone screamed in shock. Izuku, you know what, bring me shuka, I need a cold mind, he said, but a boy stood in front of him. Shoto, I'm Shoto, and how do you know me? He said with a cold tone. Izuku, are you a man? He said, impressed. Mei, Shoto Todoroki, is he a woman in your dimension? She said excitedly. Izuku, well yes, he said, shrugging his shoulders, well, very nice, and everything I need you to return to me that I was with my girlfriend, he said, pointing to Ibara. Kendo, she's your girlfriend, she said, impressed. Izuku, yes, Kendo, I confessed to her after some battles between classes, he said, scaring the girls. Kendo, how do you know my name? He said, scaring me, and why are you wearing a mask? He said, confusing Izuku. Izuku, I haven't taken it off. He said, taking off his mask. What I mean is all the girls blushed when they saw the face of our protagonist. Izuku, why are you all like this? Oh, you know what, I don't care, just bring me back to my Ibra and everyone will be calm, he said, making Ibra blush to an abysmal level. Mei, well, there is a problem. It takes all day to load, you will have to wait, she said, sticking out her tongue. Izuku, damn gum hair, I was about to have my girlfriend, or you'll bring me back He said this, but he realized what he said. Monoma, G-grab? He said, a little blushing. Ibara, with me? She said, blushing and in shock. Mina, hey, you're a rascal, he said, blushing at Izuku, then why don't you use her, she's like your girlfriend, they're the same, he said, putting Ibara in front of Izuku. Ibara, what, not me, she said this, but Izuku started to look at her, bringing his face closer to hers, making her blush, and even more when he started to caress her cheek. Izuku, my Ibara has short hair, her skin is softer, and he said, looking at Ibara's, but she has a bigger and firmer, but he said, blushing at all the girls. All pervert, they said, covering themselves. Izuku, what, I don't mean to offend you, but I'm not interested in you. I may be perverted, but only with my girlfriend. I would never be unfaithful to her with any girl, he said, crossing his arms. All phew, thank goodness, they said more calmly. Izuku, you know what, I want to talk to myself from this world, he said, looking at everyone. Where am I? He said, looking everywhere. Midoriya, and what is your name so I know who it is? Said a shy boy with messy hair, freckles and small stature. Izuku, oh yeah boy, my name is Izuku Midoriya, he said, leaving everyone in shock. Midoriya? No, that's impossible. I am Izuku Midoriya, he said in shock. Izuku what? He said, surprised. Then the two of them sat on a bench in the courtyard, staring at each other and changing places consecutively. Izuku, so I am you and you are me? He said seriously. Midoriya, if that explains why you are so handsome, he said, making everyone sweat. Izuku, likewise, friend, he said, pointing at him. Denki, listen, doesn't this remind you of when Chavo meets the red grasshopper? He said, laughing a little. Kyuka, shut up, I want to see how it ends, she said this for everyone to nod. Izuku, that I guess, he said, grabbing his chin. Midoriya, do you want a rice dessert? All, are you singing? They all said with a drop of sweat. Izuku, no, what a horror, he said, pushing him away. Midoriya, it was a test and Katsudon. Izuku, wow, I love the taste. All, they are singing, they said with a drop of sweat. Midoriya, yes, me too. Izuku, do you keep coins? Midoriya, just in case. Both, the machines soon come to power. All, where did you get those canes and hats? They said, confused. Both, all this time without you. Both, and with endless fears. Izuku, but the thing about the vending machines is a fact, he said, making everyone sweat. Midoriya, now I see before me, he said, exchanging hats between them. Both of them, someone to coincide with, they said, pointing at each other. Yui, this is good, she said, eating popcorn. Kendo, you're right, they sing very well, she said with a blush. Ibara, me and Midoriya? Maybe it doesn't sound so bad, she said, looking at Izuku from her dimension. Both, I found a new friend, and it's me, these guys said with some guitars. It's the best one I found, and it's me, these guys said, singing. Izuku, I thought I was workshop. Midoriya, I never grew up, I thought I had scars. Izuku, they're all here, he said, lifting his shirt, making everyone blush because of his body well made by the same angels and his scars that looked beautiful. Midoriya, ouch, you know I couldn't help but notice that you are taller, more handsome and apparently stronger than me, he said in amazement. Izuku and? He said this without importance. Midoriya, nothing, he said, making everyone's sweat drop due to his interaction. Dramas are weird. Izuku, they've always been like this. Midoriya, no, I say endeavor, he said, showing a photo. Both, he is all might, he said, turning the frame. I already know everything about you, they said, touching some bones. All okay, where do you get things from? They said with a little fear. Both, you know everything about me. Midoriya, turururur. The two, someone to match, a good friend I found, and it's me, it's the best I found, and it's me, while they were riding a double bike. Everyone, okay, this is strange, they all said in amazement. Both, it's the best against me, and it's me, they said, sitting under the shade of a tree dressed as Phineas and Ferb. Both, and now that I found you, they said, while Midoriya had a wedding dress and Izuku a gala dress. We can do a duet, they said, on horseback. Shoto, okay, how come we don't see when they change? He said, amazed. All, no idea, they said while watching. Both, cheap heroes, double Midoriya. Izuku, Fridays are for you. Midoriya, no, we're not going to make a program, are we? Izuku, no, I don't know, could it be, why not? He said with a smile. Midoriya, apparently we don't look that much alike, he said, lowering his head. Izuku, that can be our motto, you are the depressive one, he said, making a drop of sweat appear on everyone. May, well, why don't we go to a room so you can tell us more about yourself? She said, so everyone agreed. In the room. Izuku, and that's how I was unfaithful to my girlfriend with my girlfriend, he said this so everyone would laugh. Yui, so from what you say, in your dimension you are Ibara's boyfriend, you have spider powers, your family betrayed you, and Melissa has the power of our Midoriya, she said, pointing at Midoriya, and that is woman, she said, pointing at Todoroki. Izuku, exactly, laughing face, I think he fell in love with me because I was able to put his father in jail for abusing his family. Todoroki, wow, what a good guy, he said, raising his thumb. Ibra, and then I'm your girlfriend, she said with a blush. Izuku, exactly, he said with a smile, but you are more shy, you would make a good couple with myself from this place, he said, so that Izuku blushed. Come on, it won't be so bad, he said, raising his thumb. Both, well, I'll think about it, they said in unison, and then blushed. May, okay, that's it, you can go now, she said, taking a control and opening a portal, leaving everyone sad. Izuku, well, I'll back with my Ibra, he said, this approaching the Ibra of that dimension and whispering in her ear, if you go out with him, take care of him, and be affectionate with him, believe me, we like that, and also if you become a couple he will take care of you for life, think about it, he said this so that Ibra, blushing, agreed, well. I'm going. Bakugo, remember not to be so bad and declare your love to Yayorozu soon, he said this, blushing at Bakugo. Bakugo, sure nerd, he said with a blush. Izuku, oh, and lastly, May, Shinso likes you, he said, making May blush. I'm Cupid Hitches, he said as he threw himself into a portal that closed. Midoriya, well, it was a strange day, I guess we won't tell anyone. All, oh, nobody, they said while nodding. Normal Earth. Izuku found himself waking up right in the place where he left off. Ibra, Izuku, she said, pulling down his boxers to start licking the green-haired boy's member. Izuku, yes, he said between moans. Izuku, wow, that was weird, I'd better not tell anyone. Ibra, Izuku, do it in my mouth, she said, opening her mouth as wide as possible to let everything in. Izuku, as you command, princess, he said, accepting what was requested. The change. We find Izuku and Ibra waking up after the morning action. Izuku, how are you feeling, honey? He said in a soft tone. Ibra, I can't feel my legs, she said with a pout. You are very abrupt, she said with a blush and a pout. Izuku, okay honey, forgive me, he said, stroking her hair. Ibara, don't touch me, she said, moving Izuku's hand away, but at the same moment she put it back. Keep going, she said, looking away. Izuku, you are so cute, he said, hugging Ibara. Ibara, I know, she said, giving a kiss to the green-haired boy, but you have to reward me. I want some of your breakfast, she said with stars in her eyes. Izuku, okay, I'll cook anything for my girl, he said, making Ibara smile. Let's go, he said, extending his hand to her. Ibara, I can't feel my legs, I can't walk, carry me, slave, she said in a childish tone, extending her arms towards Izuku. Izuku, okay princess, he said, this one carrying Ibara, and tell me, what are we going to do today? He said calmly. Ibara, don't get your hopes up, but I think we'll go to the beach today, he said with a smile. Izuku, that's what they've been telling me for 3 chapters, he said, somewhat annoyed. Ibara, chapters? She said, confused. Izuku, yes, of my life, he said, so that Ibara would understand. The moment Ibara turned around, Izuku looked straight at the screen. Izuku and Ibara continued until they reached the kitchen, where they saw all their classmates with suitcases and floats. Kendo, what are you doing? We have to go now, she said in a hurry. Izuku, without waiting for an answer, quickly went down with 2 suitcases, Ibara's and his. Kinoko, okay, how did you go so fast? She said, shocked. Izuku, excitement? He said, confused. After that, Izuku carried Ibara to the bus. Everyone wondered why, but it was better not to know. The bus was also going to take students from 1A to the beach, since they share the same one, and wanted to save money on the trip. Aizawa, okay brats, we'll go to the beach, which is 3 hours from here, so make yourselves comfortable, he said, looking at Izuku. Your wounds are already healed, he said, somewhat worried, which no one noticed. Izuku, yes, look, he said, lifting his shirt, showing that he had some bandages and a thorn. Mina, hey, why do you have a thorn? She said with a mischievous look. Izuku, because Ibara healed me, he said, carrying his head. I'm sure she left a thorn in her path, he said with a smile. Ibara only had a smile. She loved the touch Izuku had with her, how he treated her, how he supported her, and how he showed her how much he loved her. Ibara repeated the same phrase in her mind every day. Just imagine it's an Ibara chibi. Shuka, Midoriya, he said, attracting his attention. Thank you, he said, hugging him. Ibara didn't feel jealous, since she knew what the girl had been through. She just let Izuku hug her, she needed it. After that, Aizawa spoke. Aizawa, okay brats, we have to go to the bus, he said, so everyone agreed. After they arrived at the bus where Izuku sat with Minetta. Minetta, hey Midoriya, he said this seriously. Izuku, Minetta, if you come up with one of your things, he said seriously. Minetta, no, he said calmly, I want to ask you this favor since we are friends, right? He said this so that Izuku would nod. Izuku, what do you want me to do? He said seriously. Lie, I want you to train me. I want you to help me stop being like this with girls, he said, surprising Izuku, but I want them to be surprised by the change. I will wear a hood so they don't see my progress, he said, so Izuku would smile. Sure, if you want, he said calmly. Izuku, Minetta, you make me proud, he said with a smile. Tomorrow we will return to UA, every day at 3 a.m. I want you at the exit of the 1B dormitories, he said, so that Minetta would nod. Minetta, thank you, friend, thank you, he said happily. Izuku, you're welcome, bro. After they arrived at the beach where they were separated by rooms, the day was calm. Ibra, who was next to Izuku all the time. Izuku, honey, I already told you that I wouldn't mind if you went to spend time with the girls, he said with a smile. Ibra, and let a hitch get close to you, never, she said, hugging Izuku tighter, making him sweat a drop. Izuku, but the only hitch I want is Bakugo, he said this so that the two of them started laughing. Bakugo, I heard you, you bastard, he said from afar. Ibra, well, I'll go with my friends, he said, giving Izuku a kiss. If you see a woman nearby, quickly tell her that I belong to Ibra Shiozaki, he said with an aura of pain so that Izuku nodded nervously. After that, the day passed at the beach and everyone returned to the hotel where Ibra and Izuku watched a movie and then fell asleep. The night had been quiet. The next day came, the last day, nothing interesting. It was a Sunday, so everyone stayed in their rooms. Izuku and Ibara, well, they stayed together all afternoon taking photos, Ibara listening to music and playing with each other. After that the day passed, the night as well. They arrived at the academy since the next day they had classes and went to sleep. Time skipped 2 months. 2 months had passed since that outing. Everything had been normal. Izuku and Ibara, Genji being perverted but for some reason Minetta not. This worried the entire 1A since Minetta, although they did not admit it was a friend to them, now wore a hood every day and little by little stopped coming. Now only a guy who was only a little smaller than Izuku arrived, by about 3 centimeters. Everyone asked who the new one was. Aizawa had been informed of the situation and, proud of his student, decided not to say anything. Izuku went out to train Minetta every day at 3 a.m. Ibra worriedly wondered why he always left at that time. Until she decided to follow him. Ibara saw how Izuku met a hooded man who was only a little smaller than him, and they entered the forest. Ibara, what are you going to do, Izuku? She said, following him until he hid in some bushes just behind where they were. Did you hear something? He said worriedly. Izuku, it's definitely an animal, he said calmly, and tell me, will you tell them? He said calmly. Yes, today will be the day I reveal what the new Minetta is like, he said with a smile, surprising Ibara. Ibara, that's the perverted dwarf from 1A, she thought, amazed. Minetta, all this was thanks to you, brother. I got a good physique, stopped being a pervert, and didn't have such a shrill voice, he said calmly. Ibara, always helping others, darling, she said with a proud smile for her boyfriend. Izuku, well, Minetta, there are only a few weeks left until winter. I think we won't be able to see each other, he said, surprising Minetta. Minetta, why? He said worriedly. Izuku, I'm a spider, Minetta. In winter I get into heat, and from what I see it's uncontrollable. I do it with the first girl that comes my way, and I could never be unfaithful to Ibra. She's all I have, you know, he said, sitting on the floor. Minetta, I'm all ears, he said calmly. Izuku, my family, they abandoned me and tried to get me back when they found out I was Spider-Man. They never really supported me. On the other hand, Ibra has always been there for me, in good times and bad. Especially in bad times, he said this so that the two would laugh and Ibra would listen attentively. She is always with me, and you know I would give my life for her. She is my pill, she is my only family, in a few words. And I don't need you to tell anyone, but it's almost her birthday. I have a great gift for her. But I will pretend that I forgot her birthday, and at night, Saz, there will be a photo of me autographed by me in her closet. He said this so that the two would laugh and Ibra would only be left with a face like serious. But she continued listening. It's not true, he said this laughing. Minetta, I know, you are not that proud, he said calmly. Izuku, I've seen that she's been watching the new console that came out on the internet for a while now. She's seen how they open it, and what it's like, so I'm going to buy her one, he said, surprising Ibara. Minetta, seriously, that's expensive, you know? He said calmly. Izuku, I earn a salary from the director, he said, surprising Minetta and Ibara. Minetta, how? He said surprised. Izuku, it's just that I'm like a professional mini, he said laughing. Minetta, you are an All Might Junior, he said the same, and when it is your birthday, he said calmly. Izuku, December 8th, he said calmly. I know it's September, but it's so that it goes with the story XD. Minetta, so you're going to give him the PS5? He said calmly. Izuku, yes, he said, exciting Ibara. Ibra was very happy. Her boyfriend paid so much attention to her that even without telling her he realized what she wanted. She just left with a few small tears of happiness. Her girlfriend loves her so much. Ibra was radiating joy, and without making a noise she returned to her bedroom. Minetta, well, let's go back, he said calmly. The last day of training. I loved the results of all the effort, he said laughing. Izuku, all your effort. Now go and show them the new Minetta, he said this so Minetta would nod. After they returned to the bedrooms, there were 2 hours left, so Izuku quietly lay down next to Ibra, hugging her, but accidentally touched her breast, causing her to turn over. Izuku, sorry to wake you up, honey, he said with a calm smile. Ibra wasn't awake, she was asleep but sleepwalking. She just gave Izuku a kiss and went back to sleep. Izuku, seriously, she's still asleep, he said, chuckling to go to sleep too. The next day everything went smoothly. Ibra pretended she hadn't heard anything her boyfriend said but showed him more affection than normal. She was happy to have someone like Izuku by her side, and so the day went by. But today we won't focus on 1B, today we will focus on 1A. Everyone in 1A was sitting until the mysterious boy told them he wanted to talk to them. "Mina, what did you want to talk to us about, boy?" she said calmly. "Toru, will you reveal your face?" he said curiously. "Bakugo, speak extra fast," he said with his usual attitude. "Lie, first of all, I want to apologize to all the girls in this course. I behaved like an idiot who did not respect them at all. But on the trip to the beach I realized something, and I asked Izuku to train me. He taught me to stop being a pervert. Because I also want to be a hero," he said, taking off his hood, leaving everyone in shock. Minoru Minetta, want to be a hero," he said with a smile. "Just imagine him in the academy suit." "All Minetta," they said in shock. Minetta, "Yes, I apologize for everything," he said, bowing. "I behaved like an idiot, and I want to remedy it." He said this so that everyone put on a smile, even Shuka and Bakugo. "Eraser, you're a good boy, Minetta, you just needed that push, and you gave it to yourself," he said as he entered the room. Minetta, "Yes," he said with a proud smile. Aizawa, "Well, let's go to the living room and put on your hero costumes. We'll have urban battles," he said so everyone would nod. After that everyone went to the locker room where Minetta saw an ear that was heading to the girls' locker room. He took out a ball that was formed by pulling out a hair and molded it. The girls on the other side, seeing how a purple ball entered, thought it was Minetta, and were disappointed, thinking that he had not changed. But that disappointment turned to pride when they saw how the ball became a tube and began to cover the hole. "Girls, thanks Minetta," they said, these from the other side. Minetta, "No problem," he said calmly. After that, everyone arrived where the fights would take place, and so they went one by one until the last one. Minetta versus Shuka. "Eraser, the two mentioned come in," he said so that the two agreed. "Denki, do you think I'll win?" he said worriedly. Mina, "I don't think so, he could have had a big change, for the better, but his quirk doesn't have a chance," she said scared. "In the battle." Shuka, Minetta, "The whole class is proud of you, but even though you've had a great change, you don't have a chance." "Give up," he said with a calm smile. Minetta, "No," he said calmly, "and what if I don't have a chance?" he said so everyone could see. "I'll create one," he said with a smile. Aizawa, "This guy," he said smiling from ear to ear. "Start," he said smiling. Shuka quickly launched an ice pillar towards Minetta, but what nobody expected was that he was with a ball in his hair and threw it into the air, confusing everyone. But with another he stuck to the tip of the ice pillar, sending it flying right where the other ball sent it, and he propelled himself with it, giving Shuka an axe-type kick in the head. "Momo, he figured out the ice pillar's trajectory and used it to his advantage?" she said impressed. "Denki, come on Minetta," he said excitedly. Mina, "But they saw that the ball floated," she said confused, but Shuka asked the same question. Shuka, "How did the ball float?" she said confused. Minetta, "My training, it was hell, you know. I thought about giving up, but just when I was going to do it I discovered something. My quirk allows me to stick these balls to everything, even oxygen," he said while Eraser smiled even more. Aizawa, "I'm proud, little sapling, now keep going," he said this so the two could continue. Shuka quickly launched a flame. Everyone thought Minetta wouldn't dodge it, but they saw something that surprised them. Shuka, "How the hell can it stick to fire?" she said, already somewhat annoyed. Minetta, "You should study physics, Miss Shuka. Fire is mostly composed of oxygen," he said, giving himself a boost. Shuka couldn't react. Minetta put a ball in her hair, sticking to her and sending her flying out of the arena, winning. "All I win," they said impressed. Aizawa, "The winner is Minetta," he said proudly. Minetta, "Thank you, Izuku," he said while releasing a treacherous tear. Ibara's birthday and winter begins. December 7th, 8 p.m. We see an Izuku, with a cap and a hood in the mall. He was looking for a store where they had the console that Ibra wanted until he found it. He entered the store being stealthy since he didn't want them to know that he was Spider-Man. He didn't want to make a scandal. He entered the store and took one of the ones that were there. And he took the Spider-Man game. It seemed curious to him, since they had never asked him for permission to make a game of it. But he didn't care. This was where the cashier. "Cashier, Oh yes, that would be $500, he said a little sadly. Izuku, what's up, buddy? Are you okay? He said, somewhat worried. Cashier, it's just that I wanted to buy one for Christmas, but it's very expensive and with what I earn here, okay, it doesn't matter. Would you like me to wrap it, sir? He said with a smile. Izuku, yes, please, he said calmly. After the cashier wrapped the console for Izuku, he simply left his money. Cashier, if it's not complete, it's worth it, he said, but he was shocked to see the amount he left, $500 more and a note, he said, taking it. Izuku, take them and buy that console as my gift, from your good friend and neighbor Spider-Man, laughing face. Cashier, Mr. Spider-Man, thank you very much, he said with a few light tears. After that we can see Izuku eating a hamburger when a group of girls approach him. Girl 1, hey boy, don't you want to have a good time, she said with a seductive tone. Izuku, no thanks, he said calmly. Girl 2, come on, you'll have fun, she said seductively. Izuku, no thanks, I have a girlfriend, he said while checking his cell phone. Boy 3, come on, accept it, she said, annoyed. Izuku, you know that if you keep doing that I can arrest you for harassment, right? He said, taking off his glasses so the girls could see that he was Spider-Man. Girls, forgive us, Spider-Man, they said, you're running. Izuku, there is never a shortage of stalkers, he said as he took the console and left. After that Izuku arrived at the bedrooms where he saw everyone watching a movie. He quickly went unnoticed by everyone and went up the stairs with the console. Kendo, we'll pretend we didn't see it? She said, confused. Ibra, leave him alone, I don't know what he's up to, but it's nothing bad, she said with a smile. Yui, yes, you are right, she said with a smile. After that the boys watched a movie and saw how Izuku went down through a window and came back in through the door. Izuku, oh hey guys, what are you doing? I just got back from the mall, but I didn't find what I wanted, he said with a nervous smile. Everyone, you're so bad at pretending, they all thought in unison. Ibara, nothing honey, just a movie, are you joining us? She said lifting her sweater. Izuku, you know I do, he said getting inside the sweater. After that everyone watched a movie and went to sleep. Ibara, good night darling, she said hugging him. Izuku, good night, princess, he said, enclosing her in a hug. The next day, Ibara found herself waking up to see her entire class except Izuku in front of her. Everyone, happy birthday Ibara, they all said in front of her. Ibara, guys, she said, happy, but noticed the absence of her boyfriend. Where's Izuku? She said, confused. Kendo, he's not here, she said, a little upset, but he left a note, she said, looking at a note that was on the nightstand. Monoma, what does he say? He said this, somewhat upset because Izuku was not with Ibara that day. Yui, he says, she said, reading the note, the director sent me on an emergency mission. I will return at night. It is obvious that today is an ordinary day, right? Why should today be a special day? She said, laughing a little. Kendo, seriously, he's so bad at pretending, she said, laughing. Tetsu, well, since you noticed, he told me not to tell anyone, but now you know, he went to get things for Ibara's party. He said this so that everyone would get excited. Ibara, he's going to throw me a party, she said, she's happy. Tetsu, yes, even every half hour he will send me a protocol of what he is doing, he said happily. Oh look, one arrived, he said so everyone could see his cell phone. Izuku, hey Tetsubro, I've arrived in Tokyo. It was a long trip, but only here do they sell the best tataki in the world. It's Ibara's favorite food. I ordered the cake outside of Japan, an artisan bakery that makes the best cakes. We'll use the school's court. The mains slow it to me. The decorations will arrive at 12. I need you, Bakugo, Kirishima, and Minetta to put them up, please. Ibara, you're really doing so much for me, she said with a smile. Kendo, he loves you very much, I see, he said with a smile. Yui, oh look, I'm sending an audio, she said pointing at Tetsu's phone. Ibara, I want to hear it, she said happily. Izuku, hey bro, I'm swinging around Japan and I already found the place. I'll order dishes for everyone. I'll be back at 5, the party will be at 7, and also, shit, a drone, he said so the audio would cut off. Izuku, shit, sorry about that, I got hit by a drone, he said this so everyone would laugh. Okay, I need you to try any way to make Ibra think that I forgot her birthday. Tell her that I'm on a very dangerous mission. Oh, and tell her that I love her." End of audio. Everyone was laughing at the audio. Everything the green-haired boy did for Ibra was cute. She was very happy. She found the best boyfriend. She was excited waiting for her party to arrive. Her classmates gave her a small cake. She went for a while where her parents and the others were waiting for Izuku's logs that were supposed to be only for Tetsu. Tetsu. "I got another one," he said, pointing at his phone. "It's a video," he said, to put it on TV so everyone could see it. Izuku, "Hey bro, look what I found," he said, pointing to a giant-sized figure of Chibi. "I'm an anime," he said, laughing. "Well, just walk. I already have everything ready. I'll be back at 5, he said, cutting the video. Then Ibra returned to where they showed her the video, and she just laughed. After that the day passed. It was 4:30 when the last log arrived. Izuku, "Hey bro, I'm already in Japan. I'm almost there," he said this in audio. After that Izuku went straight to the gym, where the aforementioned boys were finishing fixing the gym. Tetsu, the protagonist has arrived," he said happily. "Bakugo, Proda?" he said confused. "Izuku, did you know I have an anime?" He said this so everyone would laugh. After that Class B arrived and Izuku went to get Ibara. Ibra acted sad and then surprised when they took her to the party. He was laughing at how cute Izuku was. He thought that detail of his was very cute. After that the party continued until Izuku went up on stage. "Izuku, well, you know that I have a relationship with Ibra," he said laughing. "Oh no, really?" they said sarcastically. "Ibra, let him continue," she said, also laughing a little. "Izuku, I'm new to all this stuff about relationships and I don't know what, and with Ibra I feel like it's been the best thing that's ever happened, but not just her, but all of you too. Since my first friend," he said looking at Yui, "and the first boy who talked to me who didn't want to bother me," he said looking at Monoma, "and of course my first girlfriend," he said looking at Ibra, "who had a smile today on her birthday. I wanted to dedicate a song to her that I wrote for her a long time ago. I was thinking of declaring my love for her, but she beat me to it," he said, "this one to make everyone laugh. Well, here it goes," he said, "this one to start playing." Izuku finished playing and Ibra, who was crying with a smile, went up to hug him while kissing him. Everyone looked at this scene touched. After that the party continued. It ended. Everyone congratulated Ibra and said that they would clean tomorrow. After that everyone was in their bedrooms. Ibra had completely forgotten about the console. "Izuku, hey honey, I think there's still one last gift left," he said pointing at the closet so Ibra could nod. Ibra opened the closet and couldn't help but laugh when she saw a photo of Izuku in a gold frame autographed by him. "Izuku, just kidding, the gift is downstairs," he said, also laughing. Ibra took a large box out of the closet, and as she opened it, her eyes lit up with stars. "Ibra, Izuku, really?" she said excitedly. "Izuku, yes, all yours. I had a little ego and bought you the Spider-Man game," he said, impressing Ibra. "Ibra, you have a game?" she said surprised. "Izuku, yeah, cool, right? I didn't even know that," he said laughing. After that Ibra played a little with the console while Izuku caressed her hair. This was difficult for him because of Ibra's thorns, but he cared less. He was bleeding a little from the cuts, but he caressed her hair gently until he noticed that Ibra had fallen asleep. He, without wanting to move, decided to fall asleep in that position with her, until the next day. Next day, we see Ibra open her eyes, and as she stretches she punches Izuku. "Ibra, oh honey, I'm sorry," she said while rubbing Izuku. "Izuku, Ibra, I feel weird," he said, worrying Ibra. "Ibra, what's wrong, honey?" she said worriedly. "Izuku, Ibra, he said, taking her by the hands and holding her on the ground. "Ibra, honey, what's wrong?" she said, very worried, but she saw how Izuku had hearts in the pupils of his eyes. She said, worried. Ibra quickly moved away from Izuku and tied him to a bed leg as best she could. He was breathing heavily and sweating a lot. He had hearts in his pupils while a bulge in his pants moved a lot. Ibra quickly went down to where all of her classmates were. "Ibra, I need help," she said worriedly. "Kendo, what happened? Something bad?" she said worriedly. "Ibra, it's Izuku, he went into heat," he said looking at the others. "Oh, what?" the boys said surprised and the women blushed a little. Winter jealousy and party. Nizu, this is bad, he said worriedly. Ibara, why director? She said worried. Setsuna, will Izuku be okay? She said worriedly. Nizu, there is the bad thing. Spiders at this time are in heat for 1 week. The bad thing is that if they don't do it once a day they could die. He said this so that Ibra would open her eyes. Kendo, so what are we going to do? She said worried. Nizu, there's this other bad thing. Spiders only do it with their romantic partner, and they can't do it with another person. He said this so that Ibra blushed. Well, I have to go. I'm sorry I couldn't help you more, he said seriously. Class B, thank you director, they said bowing. Monoma, so what are we going to do with Izuku? We won't let him die, right? He said worriedly. Tetsu, obviously not, he said seriously. Ibara, well, remember me as a heroine, she said as she started to climb the stairs. Tetsu, sacrificing yourself for the love of your life. That's very manly, he said crying. The girls just blushed a little but decided they would wait downstairs. Ibra slowly walked up the stairs. When she got there she started to feel her breathing heavy. She started to feel like someone was taking strong gulps of air. When she got to her room what she saw was Izuku still with his pupils in hearts and sweating a lot. The bulge in his pants kept moving. She slowly approached Izuku and looked at him in the eyes. Izuku, Ibara help me, he said between gasps. Ibara, I'll do it now honey, just relax. Ibra slowly went down to where the green-haired boy's pants were and unbuttoned them, revealing his large member. She began to lick it just to see how Izuku let out grunts of pleasure. This continued for a long time until Izuku somehow managed to get free from the bonds and sank Ibara's entire head down. Izuku, I'm coming, he said growing, taking it all out in Ibara's mouth. Ibara felt like she was drowning in that huge load, but she swallowed it all as best she could. Ibara, it's good that you're here now. She couldn't continue because Izuku took her by the arms and threw her to the ground and began to kiss her neck. Izuku slowly began to rub his neep in Ibara's intimacy, and without waiting for a response he stuck it in, suddenly causing Ibara to give a loud moan. He began to give quick thrusts without rest, causing Ibara to stick out her tongue. She couldn't stand the pleasure and let herself go. Ibara, but faster, he said between gasps and moans so that Izuku would nod. Izuku started to go faster, causing Ibara to start moaning louder. He started to move his hips and got on top of Izuku to start jumping a little. Izuku was hypnotized by that movement of Ibara, and without warning he started to move Ibara's breasts while taking small bites. This caused Ibara's moans to become more fluid. Ibara just left the green-haired boy and started to lick his member again. When he felt Ibara's mouth he couldn't help it, and pushed his head against it, causing all the discharge to enter her directly through her mouth. Ibara started to cough but was able to swallow it all. After about 5 more rounds Izuku finally fell silent. Ibara as she could went to the bathroom and cleaned herself, and started to go down the stairs leaning against the walls. She could barely walk, so she just went and sat on the sofa under the gaze of all her companions. Setsuna, how did it go? She asked, worried but curious. Ibara, I can't walk. These simple words made all the girls blush, who already knew what he meant, and with the boys. Tetsu, did you hurt your foot? Monoma, you want us to cure you, he said with ice. The girls just laughed at this and Ibara fell asleep on the couch. And so a week passed. Ibara hardened it as best she could. The last day was the hardest since Ibara didn't feel anything, but even though she didn't admit it, she liked it. That week Ibara enjoyed it, but luckily it was already over. Izuku woke up and quickly went to his girlfriend and picked her up. Ibara, what's wrong, Izuku? She asked. She was a little sore. Izuku, sorry for everything you had to go through, he said, sinking into Ibara's chest. Ibara, it's not a problem, honey. You can't control your instincts. But you know, it was a strange way to unite us more, she said, laughing. Izuku, don't you hate me? He said, confused. Ibara, hate you? Of course not, darling. Come on, she said, hugging him while caressing his head. I will always love you, no matter what happens, and every winter I will be here for you, she said with a smile and a blush. Without waiting for an answer, Izuku gave Ibara a kiss on the lips, a kiss that was full of tenderness and gratitude. She, as always, responded to the kiss with a smile. Ibara, well, I think we have to go downstairs, right? She said with a smile. Izuku, yes, he said while putting Ibara on his back. Ibara, what are you doing, honey? She said, confused. Izuku, this whole week, I'll do whatever you asked me to, no matter what. It's my way of paying you back for what you've done for me, he said with a smile so sincere that it made Ibara blush. Ibara, no need for love, she said between giggles. Izuku, no, if necessary, whatever you want, just ask me and I'll give it to you, he said as he went down the stairs. Monoma, oh look, the machine has arrived, he said laughing. Izuku, hey, that hurts, he said, grabbing his chest dramatically. Ibra was just blushing, she had understood the name of the nickname. But after that the door opened and all the boys from Class 1A were seen. Monoma, what's up guys? He said calmly. Bakugo, today we will have a boys' night just before the winter party that the school is preparing, he said with a smile. We will leave now, let's go, he said, so that all the boys followed him except one. What are you waiting for, nerd? He said looking at Izuku. Izuku, I don't know guys, I have to be with Ibra, he said with a smile. Bakugo, come on, Miss Midoriya, come on, it's hard for you, just a little while we'll give it back to you in full, he said in a pleading tone. Ibra, I just don't know, every time they take him away they bring him back to me with a serious problem, she said, covering her face in disappointment. Kirishima, don't worry Shiozaki, we will bring it to you in good condition, he said, joining his hands in a pleading manner. Izuku just looked at Ibara and she agreed. Izuku, yes, I love you, I'll be back soon, he said, giving him a kiss on the lips. Let's go guys, he said this so everyone would leave. Ibara, apparently he wanted to go, he said laughing a little. Kendo, hey Ibara, we're going to have something similar with Class 1A, but it'll be a girls' sleepover. Do you want to go? She said calmly. Ibara, sure, why not? She said so Kendo could carry her on his back. Thanks, I really can't feel my legs, she said laughing. Setsuna, I don't want to bother you, but did you use a condom? She asked, worried. Ibara, yes, everything was safe, she said with a smile. Kendo, I didn't know a quirk could put you in heat like that, he said laughing. Ibara, you're right, he said laughing. Yui, well, leaving that aside, let's go, she said so that everyone started walking. With the boys. Bakugo, we've been waiting for this all week, he said while having a beer. Izuku, and why? He said confused, also taking a drink. Kirishima, it's just that we heard that you're going into heat and Bakugo said to wait for you, he said with a smile. Bakugo, what? Of course not, I just didn't want you to cry afterwards because we didn't include you, he said tilting his head. Izuku, okay, but I just have one question, what is she doing here? He said pointing at Toga. Toga, part-time job, she said shrugging her shoulders, being a villain doesn't pay well, you know. Izuku, oh yes, I understand, well pour me another one, he said, handing her the glass. After that they had a good day drinking, everyone was already very drunk until Kirishima spoke. Kirishima, hey, hip, we should go back, hip, to the party, said this drunk. After that the boys staggered to school. At the party. Ibara, hey Izuku? She said confused. Kendo, now that you mention it, none of the guys are here. Bakugo, the hick has arrived, he said as he went up on stage. Izuku, the second hick has arrived, he said, this one also getting on. Minetta, the third hick has arrived, he said the same thing. Kirishima, the fourth one has arrived, Mama, he said the same thing. The four boys went up on stage and the others just stayed down. Izuku, today my friends, we will sing you a song and then I will do a solo dedicating a song to someone special to me. At that moment Ibra just covered her eyes in disappointment. They had promised not to get Izuku drunk, and that's the first thing they do. Izuku, and well, we dedicate this song to a hero very dear to all. Where is Empty Lady? Thank you for coming to this party. Empty Lady just looked at this tiredly, thinking that they would declare her love with a song again, and Midnight just looked at this with envy because they didn't dedicate it to her. So Bakugo started playing the drums and Izuku the guitar, Kirishima the bass and Minetta the double bass. Izuku, a solar eclipse, darkened the streets and alleys. It was a fat girl the size of a truck. That made me wet my pants. Empty Lady, Damn brats, she said, annoyed, while Midnight just laughed. Ibara, Izuku, are you serious? She said this mentally. On the outside she had a disappointed look, but inside she was laughing her head off. Izuku, his shop keeps me awake at night. He eats burritos and tamale cakes. He destroys doors and doesn't fit in the car. Greasy body that I want to eat. Izuku Bakugo Kirishima Minetta, fat girl, waterbed. I'm going to surf on your legs. Fat girl, ton. I feel lonely, come here. Izuku, when she sweats I want to lick her armpit. She has a double chin on the back of her neck too. Whenever she shivers it's because she comes to kiss me. Put on mustard and I'll eat you. Kirishima Minetta Izuku Bakugo, fat ass, motherbucker. Put your tamale cake in. Fat ass, waterbed. I'm gonna surf on your legs, fat ass, 1 ton. You're gonna run aground on my rocks. Fat ass, buck. You, I feel alone, come here. Izuku started playing a guitar alone under everyone's surprised gaze while Bakugo helped him with the drums. Izuku Kirishima Bakugo Minetta, fat ass, motherbucker. Put your tamale cake in. Fat ass, waterbed. I'm gonna surf on your legs, fat ass, 1 ton. You're gonna run aground on my rocks. Fat ass, buck. You, I feel alone, come here. At that moment everyone was laughing at Empty Lady and she just curled up in a corner. On the outside Ibra disapproved of Izuku with her eyes, but on the inside she congratulated him for his beautiful voice and laughed. But all the girls blushed when Izuku struck a pose. He lifted his bangs from his face with one hand and with the other he pointed at Empty Lady. Izuku, damn fatty, he said this to end Bakugo's drumming. The men laughed. The girls blushed rather than laughed at Izuku's pose. Izuku, lastly, to almost end this party, I will dedicate a song to a very special person apart from my girlfriend. The girls, upon hearing that, were disappointed since Izuku had a girlfriend, but they thought that he had the song, and it could be for them. Ibra was just waiting for Izuku to mention the girls so she could go up and pull him down by the ear. Izuku, and this song is for my great friend Bombita Human, he said this as he sat in front of a piano. Oh, what? They said, surprised. Girls, these disappointed girls said. Ibra, you better hope it wasn't a girl, Izuku, she said with a pout. Izuku, okay, here it goes. Izuku began to play the piano with a calm melody. Izuku, you start the week with a bitter face. Horrible, like a loser. Bakugo, it can't be, he said, sighing. Izuku, you eat a very old cereal, after looking at yourself in the mirror. And you wonder if life will give you something better. Bakugo, can you get off the stage please, he said with shame. Izuku, but you are a big loser, your anus has not calmed down. You like to harass colleagues for no reason. A salary that has not improved, and love has not touched you. Because your bucking face is a mockery of the heart. And you have become addicted to novels and social networks. Looking for that somehow, your role disappears in the commercials. Bakugo, you don't give a shit, you idiot, this annoying guy said. Izuku, go exercise. Izuku, but you're still a slut, you bought a pink thong. Bakugo, it's a stupid glove. Izuku, you stand in the corner offering in favor. Bakugo, I was waiting for the bus, shut up, he said angrily. Izuku, you're a bucking monster, you're made of gunpowder. And they didn't want you even when you were a bomb. You're horrible ex too. Bakugo, stop bucking around, hitch. Izuku, you're horrible ex too. Bakugo, oh, you're bucking mother, he said this annoying guy. Izuku, you're a huge piece of shit, everyone catches you on the way down. You owe me 30 bars, don't be a bucking asshole. Bakugo, is that why you're bucking with me? He said this already fed up. Izuku, yeah, give me my money back now, or I'll keep screwing you over. It is seen how Bakugo gives 30 yen to Izuku. Izuku, alright, I'm leaving to hell. Izuku, you're horrible. You're really bucking ugly, You're really bucking horrible. He said as the big orca began to load him with the piano. Bakugo, damn asshole, said this annoying guy. Ibara, now I have to go find him, she said sighing. But everyone watches with a drop of sweat as Izuku climbs back onto the stage but slips and falls. Izuku, that's how I walk, idiots, said this one so that everyone would laugh, and to end this party, today I will tell you a part of my life in the form of a song. Midnight, said this one so that Midnight would see it with fear. When you sell snacks, take care of them, asshole, said this one, taking a guitar. At that moment Tetsu and Monoma came up. Tetsu took an acoustic guitar as he gave Izuku and Monoma a cello. "MT lady, lol, do you sell garnachas?" she said mockingly. Midnight, yes, it is an honest job because all jobs are like that, he said without caring. All, you are quite right. Izuku, but pay attention, idiot, he said as he began to play. Izuku, I was hungry, my stomach hurt. And my stomach was shaking. My good luck put me in front of to snack stand. Izuku, I told her, Hitch, give me a quesadilla. The old lady got pissed. She put too much chili in my tortilla. Son of a hitch, I got diarrhea. At that moment Tetsu did an acoustic guitar solo and finished the song. Everyone was clapping and laughing. Midnight only had a drop of sweat like his companions. Ibara, where will Izuku be? She said confused. Izuku, here, he said behind Ibara. Ibara, she jumped, but Izuku took her as a princess. Izuku, let's go to sleep, okay? He said with a smile. Ibara, yes, she said, this one also with a smile. After the two left the party. Girls 1A 1B, he forgot about the sleepover, they all thought, with a drop of sweat. A journey PT1. We see Izuku waking up on his girlfriend's chest. Izuku, ugh, my head, he said, holding his head. I knew it wasn't a good idea to drink, stupid Bakugo, he said, annoyed. Ibara, oh, what's wrong, honey? She said, she is waking up. Izuku, nothing, that's just that, he said while lying down on the bed. I have a hangover, he said so that Ibara would laugh a little. It's not funny, he said mockingly. Ibara, yes it is, they did the first thing I told them not to do, she said, pulling his ear. Izuku, it's just that Bakugo convinced me, and one thing led to another and another to another, and I ended up drinking. After we left the bar, I don't remember anything, he said with pain. Ibara, seriously, you don't remember anything? She said laughing. Izuku, nothing at all, he said the same. Ibara, well, do you remember that we were going to have a trip to the United States since the director wants us to go represent UA with Class A? She said this so that Izuku would nod. Well, you promised me that you would take me to an amusement park after that, believe me, honey, she thought. Izuku, oh well, then we will go, he said with a smile. Ibara, yes, she thought, okay honey, but I think we should pack our bags because we're leaving tonight, she said with a smile. Izuku, United States, huh? He said with a smile, but received a call. Yes, what? No, really, haha, then me? Who else? The same ones. Well, but let's make sure Minetta doesn't bring anything. Okay, we'll see each other tonight. Okay, bye, he said to hang up. Ibara, what's wrong, honey? She said, curious. Izuku, due to some problems Bakugo can't travel by plane, so with the guys from Aizawa's bachelor party we will go by car, he said, but Ibara pulled his ear. Ibara, definitely not, she said, annoyed. Those guys, whenever you go with them something bad happens, she said, annoyed. My answer is no, he said, crossing his arms. Izuku, please, Mistress Ibara, let me go with my friends in the car? He said, making eyes like cat in boots. Ibara, resist, she said, trying not to see Izuku's face, but she couldn't take her gaze away. Ah, you're lucky to be so cute, she said, giving him a kiss, but look at me, Izuku, if a single problem happens to you, you'll have to fulfill all my whims for a month, she said, crossing her arms. Izuku, promised, he said with a smile. Ibara, I know something will happen, so I already have everything planned, she thought, imagining Izuku in a maid costume. Well, honey, but before you go, why don't we play a little, she said, showing a controller. Izuku, okay, he said happily as he sat on the back of the bed. Ibara slipped inside Izuku's sweater, remaining face to face with him for a moment. He just gave her a kiss that Ibara reciprocated, then she turned around, remaining inside the sweater that Izuku was wearing, and they began to play. After playing all day, a call came to Izuku's phone. Before leaving, he said goodbye to Ibara and left with Monoma and Tetsu. Since they were also on the adventure, the companions asked them where they were going. They explained everything and everyone understood them. After that they arrived where the leftovers were already in the car. Shinso, we already checked Minetta and he's not carrying anything, he said calmly. Minetta, of course not, this time change. Izuku helped me, right bro, he said bumping his fists. Izuku, sure, he said this too, but I have a question, he said this so everyone could see. Why can't you travel by plane? He said pointing at Bakugo. Bakugo, well. Explosive flashback. Stewardess, sir, please calm down, we don't have peanuts with chili, this woman said. Bakugo, I'm not going to get fed up for paying a bucking fee for my ticket, and I want my peanuts with chili, this annoying guy said. Stewardess, but there is no sir, she said this trying to get Bakugo to calm down. Bakugo, let's see what your name is, I asked this. Stewardess, Marge, she said this thinking that Bakugo had calmed down. Bakugo, bucking Mother Marge, he said while kicking her. End of the explosive flashback. Everyone looked at him with a face of, really? Izuku, we're going to take an 18-hour car trip just because there were no chili peanuts? He said disappointedly. Bakugo, well yes, he said shrugging his shoulders. All sounds good to me, they said, shrugging their shoulders as they all got into the car and drove off. Minetta, we're going to Vegas, hitches, he said this so everyone could see. Sorry Colonel, it's the custom, V. Izuku, wait, he said taking his phone. Ibara, he said this one in the call. What's wrong, honey? He asked calmly. Ibara, Izuku Midoriya, she said this with a high tone. All, he said his full name. These scared people said. Ibara, alcohol is prohibited, as is any drug, and especially talking to a girl. If someone approaches you, quickly tell them, I'm from Ibara Shiozaki. Did you understand? She asked in an orderly tone. Izuku, yes honey, am more than understood, he said with fear. Ibara, okay, honey, I love you, we're about to board the plane, take care, I send you kisses, she said this to hang up. Bakugo, damn, that's scary, he nervously said. All, I confirm, these frightened people said. Izuku, hey, it's not that bad, she's just a little possessive, he said nervously. All, a little? They said sarcastically. Kirishima, but they don't see the good side, he said this so everyone could see. It means that she loves you, that she cares about you, and that she doesn't want you to leave her side. That's why she's possessive of you, he said this with a smile. Tetsu, wow, that's the most manly thing you've ever said in your life, bro, they said bumping fists. Izuku, I've never thought about it like that, he said with a smile. I think you're right, he said happily. Monoma, well, continuing with the trip, where will we stay? Or will we travel all night? He said confused. Izuku, yes, I don't want something like what happened last time to happen, he said this so everyone would laugh. Minetta, it was a great adventure, you must admit, he said laughing. Denki, yes, I think you're right, he said also laughing. After about 8 hours on the road, our team was still in the car until something alerted them. Izuku, oh, we don't have fuel, he said this without importance, but see where they are. In the middle of the desert. Izuku, we have no fuel, he said, alerted. Bakugo, oh shit, and now what will we do if this place is the most remote thing you can see on bucking Earth? Bucking Mother Minetta, now what did you do? He said annoyed. Minetta, he ran out of bucking gas. I didn't do anything, he said annoyed. Shinso, let's see, we have to think with a cool head. Now what will we do? Whose car is it? He said worriedly. Bakugo, we rented it, and they told me it had enough fuel, he said angrily. Denki, it's those idiots' fault, come on, we'll surely find an inn nearby, he said calmly. Bakugo, yes, the electric gentleman is right, we must continue to see if we find something, he said this so that everyone agreed. They walked for a while until they got tired. They walked for 4 hours and found nothing until all one people, these happy ones said. Izuku, here we can get someone to take us, he said this so that everyone agreed, but they didn't realize that 2 people were watching them from a distance. Policeman 1, hey, those aren't the guys who stole our patrol car that time, he said, annoyed. Policeman 2, oh yeah, those brats lowered our ranks, but now we can get revenge, he said angrily. Hey you guys, I shouted to the 7 boys. Izuku, who? Oh shit, he said scared. Bakugo, what's wrong? He said worriedly. Izuku, guys, on the count of 3 we run into the village, he said, confusing everyone. Shinso, why? He said, confused. Izuku, the guys who just yelled at us are the policemen whose patrol we stole that time, and they don't look happy, he said, watching the police approaching at 3, at 2, at 1, he said, getting ready, everyone run, he said, to start being chased by the police. These were running while the police tried to shoot them. Policeman 1, why are there so many people? He said angrily. People, carnival, they said excitedly. Monoma, it's our lucky day, guys, let's lose them there, he said, so everyone agreed. After a while among the carnival they ended up entering a bar. Manager, oh, you're the band, he said, looking at their clothes, come in, they're waiting for you. Izuku, no, he said this but was interrupted. Manager, yes Brad, I will pay you when you finish, now go, he said, pushing Izuku and the others to the stage. Izuku, what do we do? This whisper. Denki, let's play any song, the money would be good for us, he said this so everyone agreed. Bakugo, okay here we go, he said this for everyone to approve. Izuku, okay publish, are you ready? He said in a shout. We are almost there. We can see Izuku and the other 6 boys on stage thinking what to do. Izuku, and now, do we escape? He said, confused and desperate. Bakugo, no, we need that money, so look nerd, you will sing a song that impresses everyone before those police find us, and you will do it quickly, he said this so that Izuku agreed. Minetta, Izuku, what do we do now? He said nervously. Izuku, I have an idea, come down everyone, he said this so that everyone agreed. After that everyone went down except Izuku, who only took an acoustic guitar. Izuku, well, everyone from the bar, I just want to tell you that it will be a single song, since we are in a hurry, and I promised my girlfriend that if I didn't arrive on time I would do whatever she wanted. At that moment you can see how all the men get nervous just imagining themselves in the green-haired boy's situation. Izuku, well, this is a song for when you want to dedicate something to your ex. Well, here it is, he said to start playing. Izuku, I hope the power goes out in your house and you are left without water. That you can't bathe, much less put on makeup. That you're left without a maid. That every time you smile, pimples and spots appear on your buttocks. That nobody loves you anymore, that your dog dies. That you become bald. When you go out at night ready to have fun. Your skirt won't fit, your car will break down. You'll crash into a pole and get flat tires. May your next boyfriend turn out to be a transvestite and date your bucking brother. May you be his confidant. So you can see what it feels like to have your hand screwed. But let it be clear that I don't hold a grudge against you. At that moment everyone in the bar was clapping and laughing. Oh, everyone loved the song. Minetta recorded everything but he didn't send it to anyone, it would be for a souvenir. After that Izuku got off and with everyone they went to where the owner of the place was. With a handshake he gave him approximately $5,000 and they said goodbye. They ran as fast as they could, escaping from the police. They had already gone far enough from the town but they had no way to continue walking, their legs hurt. And they still had to travel 258 kilometers. They were exhausted. They couldn't handle it until they saw something that scared them. The 2 policemen from before came on their patrol car for the boys. Monoma, I don't want to do this but it's the only option, he said this so everyone could look at each other and nod. They quickly raised their hands only to see the police officers get out and approach them with a sly smile. Policeman 1, we caught you brats, he said laughing. When they were about to arrest Izuku, he threw a spider web at their faces. They all quickly got into the patrol car and started driving at full speed. Minetta, ha ha ha, buck you bucking bastards, he shouted, giving the police his finger. Policeman 2, again, they stole our patrol car, he said in shock. Policeman 1, you know what, they don't pay enough for this, he said as he left. Policeman 2, you're right, he said as he went after him. Now we can see how Izuku was driving the patrol car while the boys were laughing. Denki, we stole a patrol car again, he said laughing. Izuku, it's not funny, it was our last option, he said scared. Shinso, yeah well, now all that's left is to get to the United States. How much longer do we have to cross the border? He said this so that Izuku stopped dead in his tracks. Izuku, passports, he said scared. Bakugo, shit, we left them stranded in the car, he said angrily. Monoma, let's go back for them quickly, he said this so that Izuku nodded and turned around. Izuku quickly accelerated the patrol to full speed and headed to where they had left the passports. They found the car, but there was nothing inside. Bakugo, shit, now how will we pass? He said annoyed. Monoma, we can't, he said sadly. Izuku, holy crap, said this annoying guy to take his phone. Kirishima, what are you going to do? He said confused. Izuku, I'll call Ibra to let her know that we won't be able to go to the amusement park. Shit, she was really excited, he said, disappointed in himself. Tetsu, and if we cross without passports, he said this so everyone could see, I mean, what if we don't even go over the hills, he said this so everyone could see. Izuku, are you sure? He said seriously. Kirishima, let's try it, don't you want to see your girlfriend's smile? He said this so that Izuku would put on a smile. Izuku, yes, you're right, he said this motivated. Bakugo, okay, I think I'll drive this time, he said so everyone could see. We'll need your webs in case something happens, he said this so everyone could understand. Izuku, okay friends, he said looking at the cart, all clear. Team Dynamite, he said this so everyone could see. Shinso, hey, didn't you say we were the cool team? He said confused. Denki, I thought it was Team Marvel, he said, giving a fist in the air. Monoma, I voted for Alpha Wolf Squadron, he said this tired one. Izuku, okay, from now on we're going to team up, Alpha Team, good wonder, Sling Dynamite, Wolf Squad, he said, counting his fingers and ending up giving himself a fist in his palm. Bakugo, Minetta, Denki, Monoma, Kirishima, Tetsu. Let's go, they shouted for Bakugo to start driving. After that everyone grabbed their seats as Bakugo was driving like crazy, but this didn't stop them from smiling. In another place. Yui, not yet? She said next to Ibra. Ibra, we've been at the hotel for more than 3 hours. They should have arrived already, she said disappointed but with a smile on the inside. Now you'll have to do everything I ask you to, she said with a mocking smile. Yui, are you okay? She said confused. Ibra, yes, she said with a smile, but her phone rang. It's him, she said answering. Honey, what's wrong? She said thinking that Izuku would tell her that they screwed up again. Izuku, nothing princess, I just wanted to know if you've arrived yet. We ran out of gas for a while but we're already on our way. It'll take us a little longer to get there, he said with a smile. Ibara, oh, are really? She said with the most fake smile she could see. It's okay honey, I love you, she said to hang up. She quickly fell to her knees on the ground with an aura of sadness. Ibara, I won't be able to see him in a maid outfit, she said sadly. Yui just saw this with a mocking smile but helped her stand up and together they went to the hotel where they would stay. The director allowed Ibra to stay in a room with Izuku since he knows that they are responsible and that they would not do anything. Ibra just went, unpacked her things, put on a sweatshirt of Izuku that she brought with her, and started to look at her photos with him. With the boys. Bakugo, ready? He said nervously. Denki, prepared because we have never been ready, he nervous saidly. Bakugo, okay, we'll start going up in 3, 2, 1 now. At that moment, everyone felt how the car began to rise and fall instantly, hurting them a little. But this didn't matter to them if it was necessary to get there. They were confident that they would get through and did not see a large stone in the path that was blocking them. But Izuku luckily saw it, and quickly threw a spider web, causing the car to move to the side to avoid the stone, and they succeeded. They managed to cross, but they had to hurry up since the presentation would be very soon. Elsewhere, we can see Ibra biting her nails waiting for Izuku. Aizawa, they haven't arrived yet? He said seriously. I should stop gathering those 7, he said thoughtfully. Ibara, Izuku, where are you? This thing is about to start, she said nervously. With Izuku. Izuku, come on guys, almost there, don't worry Ibara, I'm almost there, he said with a smile. On time. Right now we can see almost all the first-year students ready to enter the auditorium where their class presentation would be. Ibara, come on, answer, she said, worried. Setsuna, not yet? She said worriedly. Ibara, not at all, she said the same thing. Kendo, let's wait a little longer, I'm sure they'll come, she said so the other two would nod. With the boys. Izuku, how much is left? He said worriedly. Shinso, 2 hours, we won't make it, he said distressed. Bakugo, maybe there is a solution, he said this for everyone to see. Monoma, tell me, he said seriously. Bakugo, let's stop at that store, he said, confusing everyone. Kirishima, I don't know if you knew, but the last thing we have is time to stop at a store, he said worriedly. Bakugo, trust me, he said this so that everyone could look at each other and nod. After that they parked the patrol car in front of the gas station and Bakugo quickly went down to the store. After 5 minutes I came out with 5 boxes full of drinks. Izuku, Bakugo, why the buck did you spend money on that? He said annoyed. Denki, well, since I'm thirsty, he was going to take a drink but Bakugo took it from him. Bakugo, they are not for drinking, he said, confusing everyone, they are for filling the patrol car's tank, he said this so everyone could see. Tetsu, let's see, Bakugo, how will filling the car with that drink help us? He said annoyed. Bakugo, because it's not just any drink, he said, showing the can. All Gepardex? They said confusedly. Bakugo, with this shit we will get there in 2 minutes, he said seriously. Izuku, we have nothing to lose by trying, he said as he started filling the tank. Denki, are you sure this will work? He said while filling the tank. Minetta, that shit will start in 5 minutes, it's our last option, he said this so everyone agreed. In another place. Presenter, and now we are introducing the students of Class 1A. Unfortunately, some of them did not arrive on time, but when they come, we will introduce them. We will continue with the presentations of the students of 1B. Whose class do you think it is? Yes, the great hero Spider-Man, he said with a smile. Class B was feeling nervous since they didn't see Izuku anywhere and neither did his other 2 classmates. These were passing by little since they decided to leave Izuku for last. Presenter, well, now Izuku Midoriya, or as we know him, Spider-Man, comes forward, he said this so that everyone could applaud. At that moment Class B was going to tell the truth, but Izuku, good morning gentlemen, I hope you are having a good morning, he said with a smile that made some girls in the place blush. Ibara, but when? She said confused but happy. Monoma, it was difficult, he said coming out from behind the students with Tetsu. Class B, guys, they whispered happily. Kendo, what happened? She said, somewhat upset. Monoma, we will tell you when we get to the hotel, he said this so that everyone agreed. Izuku, throughout this year, we have lived great adventures with my classmates, but the UA has always protected us as the elite school that it is. That is why today my classmates and I come to represent it so that they see that having a UA in the United States would be a great idea so that the ideology of being a hero would spread throughout the world. So after the speech I leave everything in the hands of Fred, he said looking at the presenter. Fred, thanks Spider-Man, so you heard, the UA is a school of great characters and that is why you are gathered here. We want your support so that heroes can be formed in the future and the United States can have someone to protect it. So today I ask, who supports us? He said. At that moment everyone started raising their hands and showing amounts of money they would give to support the construction of the school. After that, all the students arrived at the hotel where Ibra scolded Izuku for stealing a patrol car since they had been told everything. Izuku only asked for forgiveness and he and Ibra went to their room. But almost no one had noticed that Izuku at all times had his hand in his pocket as if he were hiding something. In the room. Ibra, honey, I'm bored, and I'm not sleepy, she said hugging Izuku. Izuku, I have an idea, he said with a smile. Ibra, which one? He said raising his head to look Izuku in the eyes. Izuku, let's go for a walk, he said with a smile. Ibra, yes, she said excitedly, but where are we going? She asked confused. Izuku, get on, he said pointing to his back. At that moment Ibra climbed onto the green-haired boy's back and held him with some cobwebs, but he still hugged her neck. They left the hotel window and went around the city. Ibra's eyes lit up when she saw the night lights of the Big Apple. They were there for a while until they stopped on top of a building which confused Ibra. Ibra, honey, what are we doing here? She said confused. Izuku, Ibra Shiozaki, he said this in a flirtatious tone making Ibra laugh a little. Ibra, Izuku Midoriya, he said the same. Izuku, ever since I met you, I've always loved you, and you don't know how happy you made me when you told me that you liked me too. Since then we've lived adventures together, you've always supported me through thick and thin, he said as he knelt down. Ibra shed a few light tears of happiness. She knew they couldn't get married yet, but she knew the green-haired boy's idea. Izuku, I want you to take this ring, he said, showing a gold ring as a promise that the moment we leave UA, we will get married, and be heroes together, he said while putting the ring on Ibra. What do you think? He said while standing up. At that moment Ibra rushes to hug the green-haired boy while shedding tears of happiness. Ibra, yes, I do want to. It's obvious that I do, she said while kissing the green-haired boy. I love you, she said with a sincere smile and some light tears. Izuku, I love you too, princess, he said, shedding a treacherous tear. Ibra, for a bright future, she said, looking into the green-haired boy's eyes. Izuku, together, he said the same. At that moment the two gave each other a deep kiss where they showed all the feelings they had for each other. At that moment Ibra's vines for some reason entangled the green-haired boy, but the strange thing is that they did not have thorns. Ibra, it seems that I unconsciously want you attached to me, she said, laughing a little. Izuku, well, I'll always be there for you, he said, hugging Ibra. Izuku/Ibra, I love you, they both said in unison. The amusement park, thousands? And answers. We can see how a couple of green-haired girls were waking up in a somewhat peculiar way since the boy was waking up on the girl's butt. Izuku, I will never pull of saying it, very comfortable, he said while squeezing Ibra's butt. Ibra, it's obvious that you like it, honey, she said, laughing a little. Izuku, I love it, he said, sinking and moving his head from side to side, making Ibra blush a little. Ibra, honey, don't do that, she said, blushing and pouting. Izuku, it's okay, he said with a smile. Ibra, but if you want you can do it here, she said, lifting her brow with a blush to reveal her breasts. Izuku, what did I do to deserve you? He said, crying comical tears while he got between Ibra's breasts. Ibra, you are just the best boyfriend in the world, she said, stroking his hair, and seized the ring. He is wearing the best, she said with a big smile. Izuku, well, today is Saturday, right? He said this so that Ibra would nod. Well, get ready because we are going to the amusement park, he said this with a smile, while he saw how Ibra's eyes lit up. Ibra, yes, she said with a smile. Izuku, but let's sleep a little longer, he said, moving his head between his girlfriend's breasts. Ibra, if we leave now I'll let you sleep on my butt, she said with a blush but determined. At that moment an already changed Izuku appeared and ready. Izuku, hey, get ready, we'll be late, he said in a hurry. Ibra was just in shock. How did he do it so fast? Instead of thinking about it, she just went to change. After a while Ibra came out in a comfortable casual dress. Izuku just blushed, which was noticed by Ibra. Ibra, do you like it, honey? She said while walking around. Izuku, I love it, he said, carrying her, giving her a kiss. How are you so beautiful? He asked, disimpressed. Ibra, come on, honey, don't say that, she said with a slight blush. Izuku, I feel like the luckiest person in the world, he said while looking at Ibra. Ibra, and I'm the luckiest one, she said, kissing Izuku. Are we going? She said this to earn a nod from Izuku while they held hands. They went out, and in the hallways they saw some classmates who were asking them where they were going, and they told them to go to the amusement park, so they went out, took a taxi and went to the park. On the way they were talking, but the driver tried to talk to them. Driver, I bet you're not from here? He said, breaking the ice. By the way, I'm Manolo. Izuku, well, you picked us up at the International Tourist Hotel. You're not that perceptive either, Manolo, he said, somewhat annoyed, as he saw how he was looking at Ibra a lot. Manolo, yes, well, I have realized that you are Japanese, he said, impressing the two. Izuku, how do you know that, you bucking stalker? This annoying guy said. Ibra, Izuku, be respectful, she said, giving him her phone. I know yours was left in the patrol car that was taken, so play, she said this, and surprisingly it worked. Manolo, don't get angry, my friend. It's been more than 3 times that your girlfriend says Kia, he said between laughs. Izuku, oh yeah, hey Manolo, I had a question for you, he said seriously. It's true that there will be a revolution here to allow the law of using quirks whenever they want, It's just that every time I come with my girlfriend I'm afraid that something will happen to her, he said seriously, but he heard some giggles from Manolo. Manolo, what? A Japanese who is afraid of quirks, he said, bothering the two. Ibara, what's wrong with this man? She said, somewhat irritated. Izuku, and why do you say that, Manolo? He said, irritated. Manolo, they say that the Japanese are the best heroes in the world, and it seems strange to me that they were afraid of some quirks, he said, irritating them even more. But anyway, what's new in Japan? He said, stopping as they had arrived. Izuku, nothing, just that we can use our quirks whenever we want. You wash it, damn it, he said, this one to grab Ibra with a spider web and with the other leave without paying. Ibra, Izuku, we left without paying, she said, scolding him. Izuku, no, he deserved it, he said, laughing. Ibra, well, yes, but you know what, we better go, I want to have fun with you, she said with a tender smile. Izuku, why yes, he said, somewhat blushing. Ibra, why are you blushing, darling, she said, this making Izuku stare blankly and smoke coming out of his ears. He just went down and sat on a bench while covering his face so Ibra wouldn't see his blush. Ibra, hey, what's wrong, darling? She said, laughing a little. Izuku, nothing, he said with a big blush, let's go to the park, okay? He said with a smile. Ibara, carry me, she said, raising her arms. Izuku, can't you walk? He said, laughing a little. At that moment Ibara pinched a part that is below the left ear. At that moment Izuku felt how his whole body tense, and he had a pain that was not so strong but it was worrying. Izuku, what did you do? He said, confused. Ibara, well. Flashback. Samantha, also if you pinch the part below the left ear, his body will tense up. That will help you do something you want or teach him a lesson, he said with a smile. Ibara, oh, she said with stars in her eyes while writing it down. End flashback. Ibara, and that's what happened, did it hurt a lot? I'm sorry, I won't do it again, she said while stroking Izuku's hair apologetically. Izuku, no problem, honey, it's a little strange but it didn't hurt that much, he said with light giggles. Come on, get on, he said, crouching down so Ibara could climb on his back. Ibara, come on, he said in a childish tone. After that the two entered the park where they had fun all day. Ibara wanted with all her might a Spider-Man stuffed animal, and there was also one of Izuku in the Spider-Man suit. People approached them to ask for photos and the girls approached to flirt with him, but Ibara hugged him possessively and pushed them away. Izuku only laughed lightly at this. After that the two left as it was getting dark. They returned to the hotel where Ibara as a little girl played with the Spider-Man stuffed animal and Izuku's stuffed animal. This only caused her a few light laughs to see Ibara like that. At that moment he swore that he would protect that smile at all costs. After that it was time to sleep, but something happened. A storm came, thunder began to be heard and Izuku noticed how Ibara was shaking. He got out of bed, took a blanket, and covered them both, but he hugged Ibara as if she were a guardian. Izuku, better? He said calmly. Ibara, much better, she said, now calmly sinking into the green-haired boy's chest. Izuku, sleep well, darling. I love you, he said, giving her a kiss on the forehead. Ibara, I love you too, darling, she said with a smile, making Izuku blush a little. So the two of them fell asleep hugging each other on that stormy night. The next day, we can see Ibara stretched out on top of Izuku, taking up all the space even while asleep. Izuku, I think he moves a little while sleeping, he said with a drop of sweat. At that moment Ibara wakes up and realizes how she is. Ibara, oh, hello darling, she said, giving Izuku a kiss on the lips. Izuku, good morning princess, how did you sleep? He said with a smile. Ibara, although yesterday's lightning scared me, I slept well, thanks to someone protecting me, she said, smiling. You deserve a reward, he said, starting to lift his shirt, but the two noticed something mole on his window. Ibara noticed this quickly under his shirt, but the two were disconcerted to see a dark-skinned young man with slightly afro hair and no shirt stuck to the window with two pigeons in his hands and a scared face. At that moment Ibara was scared, thinking he was a stalker. Izuku quickly opened the window and grabbed the boy by the neck, scaring him. Izuku, so trying to spy on my girlfriend, you pervert, he said, annoyed, but remained silent when he felt his spider sense connect with the boy's. Izuku, you're like me, he said, surprising Ibara. Ibara, what? She said, surprised. Boy, sir, I swear I wasn't trying to spy on you, but for some reason my power, I don't know what to call it, but it got out of control and now I can't stop sticking to the walls and I jumped super high, he said, scared. But he saw Izuku better. Oh, Mr. Spider-Man, what are you doing in the United States? He said, confused. Don't do anything to me, he said, scared. Izuku, boy, calm down, look at me, calm down, what is your name? He said calmly. Miles Morales, he said, frightened. Ibara/Izuku, it's the same last name as Natasha, these two thought in unison when remembering the other Spider-Mans. Izuku, let's see, Miles, I think I know what's wrong with you, he said, this so Miles could see your power was supposed to only allow you to stick to things, right? He said, impressing Miles. Miles, yes, how do you know? He said, amazed. Izuku, let's see, Miles, what's happening to you is the same thing that happened to me, look at me, now you have the same powers as me, you have spider powers, he said, surprising the two. Miles/Ibara, what? They said in amazement. To be continued. Hey gang, what did you think of Miles' introduction to the story? It won't be recurring, it will just be like Spider-Man who stayed in the United States. And without further ado, let's get on with the questions from the last chapter. From Lolesto. To Ibara. Lolesto, Ibara, what would you do if you met Dr. House? Ibara, who is he? Izuku. Izuku, hey, what's up, princess, is everything okay? Ibara, yes, it's just that, who is Dr. House? Izuku, let's see. It says here that he is a very famous doctor who lives in the United States, has a verified Twitter account, and is an atheist. Ibara, what? Izuku, come on, the cage is going. Ibara just put on a calm smile. Ibara, well, answering your question. Ibara can be verified on Twitter. But then Ibara puts on a face that promises pain. Ibara, but it is verified before the eyes of the Lord. Yes. Next questions. From Emmanuel Cyrilate. Tio, both of you. For Izuku, if you concentrate all your strength on your fist or a punch, how much damage would you do? Izuku, it's better not to know, old man. I once destroyed the principal's office by accident, and it's better not to know what I found inside. This traumatized man said. To Izuku, if you hit yourself with all your strength and it doesn't hurt, are you very strong or very weak? Izuku, it's obvious that I'm super strong, he said with a smile. For both, Pa when the wedding or the children's 7W7. Izuku/Ibara, the wedding after the U.A.Y. the children. Izuku/Ibara, at the wedding/ I haven't thought about that yet. Ibara, she just turns really red at Izuku's response. Izuku, yeah honey, he said, hugging her, obviously after the wedding, he said, looking at the screen. From JC8086. To Izuku. JC8086, how do you think your life would have been if little Eri hadn't been able to save Ibra from death? Would you have stopped being Spider-Man? Izuku tensed, but Ibra took his hand with a smile. Izuku, if I'm honest with you, old man, I never want to imagine that scenario, but I do think that I would have abandoned everything, I would have stopped being a hero. But that girl, I am eternally grateful to her, she is my hero, he said while Ibra hugged him with a smile. I love you, he said while kissing Ibra. Ibra, I like you more, darling, she said, returning the kiss. The return flight. Ibra, what do you mean he has the same powers as you? She said in shock. Izuku, I don't know, honey, what dimensions are you from? He said, looking at Miles. Miles, Brooklyn, he said with a smile. Izuku, okay, you're from this dimension, he said seriously. Look, kid, I know what's happening to you, I know you're confused, but unfortunately, I won't be able to help you, he said as he watched Miles lower his gaze. Ibara, and why not, darling? She said, confused. Izuku, remember that today we will return to the UA, and apart from that, he said this so that the two could see a hero must forge his own path. He does not have to follow someone else's, so look, Miles 10, he said, giving him a suitcase. Miles, what is this, sir? Your suit, he said, looking at the suitcase. Ibara, will you give him your suit? She said, confused. Izuku, yeah, look Miles, I'm not giving you my suit, I'm giving you a template, he said this one so that Miles smiled understanding. I'll also give you my triggers. Just point with your wrist and release to get loose, he said this one with a smile. I think I'll be calmer knowing that now Brooklyn has a hero for them. Remember boy, never take off your mask, he said this one while Miles agreed. Miles, thank you Mr. Spider-Man, I will disappoint you, he said with a smile but then a confused face. Izuku, go down through the window, relax your hands, just think about which hand you want to take off and then you can go down, he said while Miles agreed. Miles, thank you sir, he said trying what Izuku told him. It worked, he said excitedly. I won't let you down, he said to leave. Izuku, I know you don't kid, I know you don't, he said with a smile. Ibra, you are a very good person darling, she said while kissing him. Izuku, the boy reminded me of me, he said with a smile confused, and without knowing his abilities and with a pirate costume, I think a few small lessons would not hurt, he said with a smile. So do we continue? He said while Ibra just acknowledged blushing. Time skip. We can see all the students outside a plane. Aizawa, Bakugo, be thankful that we got permission for you to travel, but one problem and we'll throw you off the plane, he said, annoyed, while Bakugo nodded nervously. Well, let's all get on. You can get on with whoever you want, he said so that everyone would nod. Izuku, I'm not forcing you to sit with me, you know? He said, looking at Ibra. You can sit with your friends, I have no problem, he said with a smile. Ibra, okay honey, I'll sit with them, but woe to you if you flirt with a girl, she said pinching her under the ear. Izuku shuddered as he felt that pain again. Izuku, you know I don't, he said nervously giving Ibra a kiss that she reciprocated. Ibra, well, see you after the flight, honey, she said with a smile as she walked towards Kendo and Yui. Izuku, yes, he said with a smile. After that he went to an empty place and the only one he saw was one that was between Setsuna and Reiko. He didn't care and sat down with them and they started talking, but what he didn't see was that a jealous Ibra was watching them from afar, which Yui noticed. Yui, hey Ibra, he said, he's watching her. Ibra, what's wrong Yui? She said confused. Yui, I like you, she said, surprising Ibra. Ibra, Yui, I accept your way of thinking, but you know that I am in a relationship with Izuku, she said firmly. Yui, you see, that's the same thing Izuku would answer if you asked him that, so you don't have to get jealous if you see him with another girl, she said, returning her gaze to the front. Ibra, understanding why Yui told him that, she just calmed down. She was right. Izuku has shown how much he loves her as to think that she could be unfaithful. He just continued talking to Yui and Kendo, but from time to time he glanced at Izuku. It's not that he distrusts him, he distrusts Setsuna. That girl is a bit crazy. Although he doesn't believe that she would betray her, it never hurts to be sure. After that the flight was calm. Ibra gave Izuku a few glances, but she could see how the three of them were asleep. Reiko with a travel pillow, Izuku in her place and Setsuna with her feet stretched out covering the seat of the other two. Ibra saw how Izuku began to move, more than usual. This movement woke up Reiko and Setsuna. Ibra, already worried, stood up and began to see how Izuku was having spasms. Ibra, Izuku, something's wrong, scream is waking up everyone on the plane. Everyone at that moment stood up and gathered around Izuku to see what he had. Aizawa, he's having spasms, quickly to freak out, but he couldn't continue as Izuku's fist hit him. What the hell? He said confused. Izuku, what the buck are you guys? He said confusing everyone. Why the hell are you stuck with me? Do you like me or what? He said with a more threatening tone than usual. Ibara, Izuku, he said this approaching. Izuku, what the buck do you want? He said, surprising everyone. Better said, who are you? He said, confused. Ibara, don't you remember me? She said, crying a little. Kyuka, hey moron, you better calm down, she said, releasing a light wave of sound. At that moment you see how what looks like a kind of black mass begins to come out of Izuku's face, revealing another face of Izuku. Izuku, Kyuka, release more sound. I don't know what this thing is, but it's not good. The thing covers Izuku again. Damn hitch headphone, what the hell is wrong with you? This one was about to hit Kyuka, but some vines held him. Ibara, Kyuka, now, she said while Kyuka agreed. The demos moved out of the way as Kyuka began to release all the sound she could. Thanking God that the plane was so strong, they began to notice how Izuku began to scream in pain and that thing completely separated from his body. It was going straight to Setsuna, but a jar got in front of it and trapped it. Aizawa, I got you damn thing, he said, annoyed and in pain from the blow. Ibara, Izuku, are you okay? She said worriedly. Izuku, yes, don't worry princess, I'm fine, he said, sitting on the floor. Kyuka, what was that? He said, attracting everyone's attention. Izuku, I don't know, I dreamed that something similar to my suit, only taller and black, spoke to me and told me to let myself be carried away by the darkness of my heart, he said seriously. I don't know what it is, but apparently that shit weakens with sound. Thanks Kyuka, he said, giving Kyuka a smile while she agreed. Kyuka, no problem, but do you remember what you did? She said seriously. Izuku, no, I just remember being in a dark place. Suddenly I saw your face. I knew what happened. That thing weakened thanks to your waves. The moment I saw you I told you and that thing covered me again. Apparently it was right, he said, getting up from the ground. Aizawa, it would be better to secure this thing, he said, putting it in a special jar. For now you are grounded, he said, looking at Midoriya. Izuku, buck, why? He said, this annoying. Aizawa, you hit me, he said, this annoying. Izuku, but it wasn't me, he said the same thing. Aizawa, no, but starting tomorrow I forbid you to use your quirk outside of school and you will clean dormitories 1B and 1A for a whole week, okay? He said angrily. Izuku, clear my spider balls. I will not do that, he said, crossing his arms. Aizawa, fine, 2 weeks, he said, more annoying. Izuku, that's obvious, but he couldn't finish because some vines took his mouth. Ibra, of course he will, she said with a nervous smile. Don't say anything anymore, honey. You'll only make your situation worse, she whispered to him with a nervous smile, while Izuku reluctantly agreed. Aizawa, well, let's continue with the flight, he said to go to his place. Oh, yes, they said in a tired tone. An evil approaches. We can see how Izuku and his classmates and girlfriend arrived from the airport. They quickly headed to the academy and went to their dormitories. They had 2 weeks free thanks to the fact that they went to represent the UA well. Ibra with her vines, but in a loving way he took Izuku to her room. Izuku, before you slap me, tell me what I did first, he said nervously. Ibra, is that really your opinion of me? She said with a drop of sweat. Izuku, it's just that every time you take me somewhere without telling me anything or with your vines it's because I did something wrong, he said confused. Ibra, well, not today, darling. Today I just want to be with you. All day long lying here playing, she said, starting to kiss Izuku, and who knows, maybe something more, she said with a blush. Izuku, okay honey, he said, kissing her. So what do you want us to do? He asked affectionately. Ibara, I want to play, she said like a little girl, showing the console control. Izuku, oh, so you're challenging the great Lord Izuku to a few games, huh? He said in a macabre tone. Well, let's play, he said with a somewhat sinister smile. Ibara, CC honey? She said nervously. After that they played a racing video game for about 4 hours. Izuku, how is it possible that you beat me if it's the first time you play this? He said with a ghost coming out of his mouth. Ibara, yeah honey, you're just not as good as me, she said with a proud smile, and if I win I want a reward, she said smiling. Izuku, okay honey, what do you want? He said also smiling. Ibara, I want cuddles, she said with a smile. Izuku, what? He said somewhat confused. Ibara, I always do them for you. I want to know what they feel like. But if you don't want to, she said with a sad look. Izuku, no, of course I want to. I just don't know how. But come, I'll try, he said, lifting his sweatshirt so that Ibara could get into it, sticking only her head out. Ibara, ready, she said in a childish tone. Izuku began to caress Ibara's hair while playing with her cheeks. Izuku found it very difficult because of Ibara's thorns. He even got some embedded in himself, but he cared less and simply continued. Izuku, who is the most beautiful girl in this place? It's you. It's clearly you, he said in a calm tone while kissing Ibara. Who do I want to marry as soon as possible so that she never leaves my life? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sure it's you, he said, laughing a little. Who is the most special thing I have in my life, and would I be able to give my life for her? Well, she's a very tender green-haired girl that I love so much, and she has thorns on her head, he said, caressing Ibara's hair. Ibara just turned around and saw the green-haired boy. For a moment their eyes met. Izuku's emerald eyes met Ibara's deep eyes. She with a smile just started to kiss him, while he took her by the waist and reciprocated the kiss. The kiss began to increase in intensity. The green-haired girl took Izuku with her vines and put him on the bed. He quickly climbed on top of him, and began to kiss him, while moving his hips on his lap. Ibara, Izuku, make me yours, she said with an excited tone. Izuku, as you wish, your highness, he said in a submissive tone, exciting Ibara even more. They began to undress each other while giving each other passionate kisses. In another place. Man 1, wow, it was hard to get him out of there, Mr. Kingpin, he said, laughing a little. Kingpin, the reactor is ready again, he said seriously. Man 2, yes sir Kingpin, but just out of curiosity, why did you change the search to that boy? He said confused. Kingpin, because that boy, he already interfered a lot in my plans. I can't leave him alive, but I have the feeling that if I kill him something will happen, something with him, so I need to kill the Izuku Midoriya of the lands that make it possible for them to get here, so they don't interfere. That's why I need to kill all the Izuku Midoriya and I will get it, he said annoyed. Earth 980. Ruka, Aizawa, what are you doing? She said confused. Izuku, nothing honey, I'm just fixing the thing about our vacation in Paris, he said, exciting the girls. Ruka Mizuhara Sumi Mami, Paris? They said excitedly yes, they said jumping for joy. Izuku, I'm glad you liked the surprise, he said happily. Earth 354. Izuku, well Minoma, you should know that the suit is now that it is no longer in automatic mode, it is more difficult to control, he said seriously. Minoma, yes I know, but as Spider-Man, I must learn to control it in order to protect Japan alongside Daredevil, he said, extending his fist. Izuku, yes Spider-Man, he said with a slight smile. May, well, lots of rest, the training begins again, she said clapping while the two agreed. Bakugo, don't tell me you're tired of being a nerd? He said mockingly. Izuku, I can do this all day, come on Minoma? He said while Minoma agreed. Minoma, let's go, he said with a smile. Earth 674. Izuku, honey, are we leaving now? He said at the entrance of his house. Yui, yes, she said while going down the stairs, remember if Setsuna tells you something. Izuku, don't believe him because he's bad, he said in a military tone. Yui, okay, now, kiss, she said pointing at her lips for Izuku to kiss her. Another, she said while Izuku did the same for each request. I will never get tired of this, she said with a silly smile. Original Earth. Kingpin, all Izuku Midoriya will die, and no one will be able to stop it, he said, breaking the pen in half that he has in his hand. With Izuku. Ibara, honey, faster, she said between moans. Izuku, as you ask, princess, he said, this increasing the speed, making Ibara moan. After that they continued until Ibara got tired, then the two of them bathed together and put on more comfortable clothes. Ibara, you're very abrupt, Izuku, she said with a pout. I can't feel my legs, she said crying comically. Izuku, sorry darling, it's just that having you in front of me is something I would give my life to do, he said with a smile, making Ibara blush. Ibara, fool, she said with a pout, rolling around in bed like a little girl. At that moment Izuku stopped her and laid down on his butt, placing himself between Ibara's two buttocks. Izuku, as I always say, it's very comfortable, firm and big, it's perfect, he said, sinking deeper into Ibara's ass. Ibara, Izuku, she said with a slight moan. Don't do that, she said blushing. Izuku, sorry, I just can't resist, he said, laughing a little. So there's a little time left before we go to sleep, what do you want to do? He said, hugging Ibara. Ibara, I want you to give me a piggyback ride, she said like a little girl. Izuku, okay, get on, he said, this so that Ibara could get on his back and he could start giving her a piggyback ride. In another place. A black mass can be seen in a container. May, so what are you? She said confused. It doesn't matter, she said, putting the container in a locked suitcase. Tomorrow I will find out. Now I am very tired, she said to lock the workshop. With Izuku. We can see that they were already lying down, Izuku with a sweatshirt and Ibara with a t-shirt of this one that covered her a little below the thighs. Ibara, your shirts are always very comfortable, she said, sinking into Izuku's shirt, but you are more comfortable, she said, getting into Izuku's sweater and starting to kiss him. I love you, she said with a smile. Izuku, I love you too, darling, he said, kissing her. How I wish this peace would last forever, he said with a smile. The Dekuverse Final Point 1. Earth 980. Mizuhara, good morning, honey. How did you sleep? He said while looking at Izuku. Izuku, very well, my dear wife is very comfortable, he said between Mizuhara's breasts. Ruka, Aizu, dinner is ready, she said this so the two of them could go down to eat. Izuku/Mizuhara, here we go, they said as they started to walk down the stairs. Mommy/Sumi, good morning, Izuku, they both said to give the green-haired boy a kiss. Izuku, good morning, my dears, and the children? He said, sitting at the table. Ruka, well, they are. I'm not finished. Izuku, are they? He was in shock when he saw how it turned black and white. What the buck? He said, upset when he saw his wives and almost the entire room like that. He went out and what he saw left him in shock. Everything was in black and white, even the sky. But he couldn't continue because he felt like a portal sucked him in shit. Portals aren't good at all, he said while the portal took him away. Earth 354. We can see Izuku and Minoma training the suits. Izuku, come on Minoma, you have to land at least one hit, he said seriously. Minoma, I try but I can't, he said frustrated. May, don't be angry Minoma, the suit follows you as you sit, you must be calm to be able to control it well, she said this so that Minoma would nod. Minoma at that moment relaxed and began to move calmly and flexibly. Being able to move gracefully confused Izuku's senses a little until he got close to him. He was going to hit him. Izuku just closed his eyes waiting for it, but it never came. Izuku, why don't you hit me this one? He said in shock seeing how everything was in black and white. May, why is everything in black and white? He doesn't receive an answer. May, Bakugo, Setsuna, Niza? He said waiting for someone to answer him, but he begins to feel how his senses alert him to leave. But it was too late. He began to be levitated until a portal that opened above him. Oh shit, he said being sucked into the portal. Earth 674. Yui, Izuku, today we will have a field trip for all the classes, you know, put on sunscreen and a mosquito-proof cream, okay? She said in a motherly tone. Izuku, yes Yui, he said this with a big smile that made her blush. Yui, what will you do if Setsuna asks you to go deeper into the forest? She said, looking seriously at Izuku. Izuku, the moment he starts touching me I'll run screaming your name, he said in a military tone to receive a nod from Yui. Yui, very well, you have earned some caresses, come, she said this affectionately. Izuku closed his eyes waiting for the caresses that never came. Izuku Yui? He said confused but was surprised to see her in black and white. When he looked up he could see not only Yui in black and white, but also her house. When he left he was stunned to see everything and everyone in black and white, but what surprised him the most was seeing a portal above him. He tried to throw fire at it but it didn't work because the portal swallowed him. Izuku, my caresses, he said crying. Normal Earth. Kingpin, what the hell did that fail? He said angrily. Look, I'll give you one last chance. If this doesn't bring me the Izuku Midoriya in 24 hours, you'll die, he said, scaring all the engineers. All yes sir, they said with fear. Kingpin, no matter what I have to do, I will kill them. The damn Midoriya genes will disappear from each universe, this one said annoyed. With Izuku. We can see a green-haired boy who was waking up with an Ibra inside his sweater. When he woke up the first thing he saw was those beautiful eyes looking directly at him. Ibra took the initiative and caressed her nose with the green-haired boys and then gave him a kiss full of love. Ibra, good morning darling, she said tenderly. Izuku, good morning princess, did you sleep well? He asked while kissing her. Ibra, you are an excellent pillow, she said laughing a little. Izuku, and you are an excellent girlfriend, he said, burying Ibra in a hug. Ibra, I love you Izuku, she said hugging the green-haired boy, putting her face in his abs. Izuku, I love you too Ibra, he said hugging her more. Do you want to have breakfast? He said calmly. Ibra, I don't know why you asked me if you already know the answer, she said laughing a little. Your food is exquisite, she said with stars in her eyes. Izuku, then let's go, he said in a loving tone. Ibra, I want a horse, carry me slave, she said in a childish tone. Izuku, okay, he said while carrying Ibara. Ibara, now let's go, she said, hugging the green-haired boy. Izuku carried Ibara to the common room where all his classmates were preparing breakfast. They sat and waited. After that they tied quietly. Yui, hey, I have a question, she said this so everyone could see it. Why were you late for the UA presentation? She said, confused. Monoma, extended or summarized? He said, laughing. Always, summarized. Tetsu. The car we rented ran out of gas, so we left it in the desert and walked for 5 hours until we found a town where, curiously, the policemen whose patrol we stole the last time were located. They chased us and we managed to steal their patrol car again, but what we didn't get from the previous vehicle were the passports. We went back but they were gone, so we crossed the border through the hills, and when there were 5 minutes left we filled the tank with Gepardex and arrived. Kendo, sometimes I don't understand how they ended up involved in all this, she said, disappointed. Ibara, you'd get used to it, she said calmly. Izuku, come on, that's racist, he said somewhat indignantly. Ibara, but I'm right. Izuku, but you're right, he said, laughing. After that, breakfast went by peacefully, and now we can see the whole class be watching a movie. Izuku, hide, he said seriously. Kendo, why? She said, confused. He quickly and without saying anything left the apartments and made a trampoline of spider webs. Everyone was confused but were impressed to see a portal in the sky with boys. Although different, they all had something in common, and it was green hair, and that all three they were very handsome, almost as much as Izuku. The 3 boys fell into the spider web and bounced off, landing on the floor. Izuku, what the hell happened to me? He said, confused. Izuku, who the buck are you? He said, on guard. Izuku, what happened to me? Go to you, Yui, he said, confusing everyone. Thank God you're okay. Nothing happened to you? He said, worried. Yui, who are you? She said, confused. Izuku, okay, what's going on here? He said, confused. Izuku, Yui, don't you remember me? It's me, Izuku, he said worriedly. At that moment everyone widened their eyes. It was true, apart from Izuku almost no one has green hair, and apart from the fact that the boys looked a lot like him. Izuku, let's see who you are? He said, looking at the 3 boys. Izuku, I am Izuku Midoriya, he said this, surprising everyone. Izuku, no, I'm Izuku Midoriya, he said, annoyed, thinking that they were copying his identity. Izuku, no, I'm Izuku Midoriya, he said, facing the 2 boys. Izuku, no, I am Izuku Midoriya, he said, confused. At that moment everyone saw the scene in shock. Were they all Izuku? At that moment the 4 of them looked at each other and launched into blows. The 4, I am Izuku Midoriya, no I am Izuku Midoriya, no I am, each one said, annoyed. Ibara, Izuku, she said, stopping the boys. The Izuku what? They all said in unison. But at that moment you see Izuku approaching Yui. Yui, what's wrong? She said, confused. Izuku, why don't you smile anymore? You don't love me anymore, he said this about to cry. At that moment all the girls felt a pang in their hearts, that Izuku was very tender. Yui, boy, I don't know you, she said seriously just to see how Izuku started to cry. All the girls looked at Yui with a bad face, and she just shrugged her shoulders as a sign that she didn't care. Izuku, but why, even if we live together, we are boyfriends, was I a bad boyfriend? He said, crying more. At that moment everyone was in shock. Izuku was Yui's boyfriend. They didn't understand anything. Izuku, wait, he said this, attracting everyone's attention. I think I know what's going on, he said this so everyone could see. Do you remember what happened with the Spider-Mans? He said this so everyone would nod. Well, I think this is the same, but with me, he said this seriously. Hey, he said, attracting the attention of the Izuku. You are me, he said this seriously. Izuku, no, you are me, he said seriously. Izuku, no, you are me, he said somewhat annoyed. Izuku, and what if we are all, he said, changing the environment. All okay, this is the pacifist, they said, moved by that Izuku. Izuku, I don't want to, he said seriously. Izuku, buck you, he said, to start fighting with him. Everyone, okay, I take back what I said, they all thought with a drop of sweat. After that the two Izukus separated. Izuku D. But now that I think about it, you're right, he said, so everyone could see. For example, Ibra has vines on her head, Tetsubro has no eyebrows, and Setsuna has very sharp teeth, sharper than where I come from, he said seriously. Izuku K. Well, this is not new to me, he said, this for everyone to see. Okay, let me explain. This tells the whole story of Izuku in Kanojo Okarishimasu story on my profile XD. Setsuna. So you are from another dimension, she said, this so that Izuku would nod. Wow, I don't understand anything anymore, she said, confused. Izuku, now that you mention it, you're right, he said, for everyone to see. Everyone here has something strange, and Yui isn't to kill Setsuna for trying to harass me, he said, this for everyone to let out a light laugh. Yui/Setsuna, what? They thought with a blank look. Monoma, okay, first tell us, what is your quirk? He said, this for everyone to nod. Izuku/Izuku D, quirk? They asked, confused. Izuku K, in your world there are no people with powers either, right? He said this so that everyone could see it, and the two agreed. In this world there is something called quirk, which is a power that manifests at 4 years of age, he said seriously. Kendo, how do you know? She said, confused. Izuku K, I come from a dimension similar to this one. Only I was in Class A, he said seriously, surprising everyone. Always. Then I correct the question, he said, this so that everyone could see. What are your powers? He said, confused. Izuku, I can control the elements thanks to the elemental stone that is cared for by my family who chose me as its bearer, he said, this to start taking out his elements on a small scale so as not to ruin something. Izuku K, I think there is no point in hiding it here. I have the quirk inherited from All Might and a super regeneration, he said seriously. Everyone decided not to say anything. Izuku D, I went blind due to an accident, but my senses have sharpened so much that I can now see in grays, hence the bandana on my head, he said, this for everyone to nod. Monoma, but now the question is, how did you get here? The Dekuverse final point 2. We can see the 4 Izukus talking to each other. Izuku D, so that's why we're so handsome, he said, making everyone sweat. Everyone, we just asked them how they got here, they all thought with a drop of sweat. Setsuna, I have a question, she said, this for everyone to see. He said that Yui tries to kill me because I harass him, she said, pointing at Izuku. Why? She said, confused. Izuku, I've known Yui since we were kids, and we became a couple no more than 2 months ago, but I met Setsuna at the mall when she wanted to ask me out, and since then she's been trying to get me to do the same things I do with Yui with her, this innocent guy said. Setsuna, I'm a nobody, she said with an aura of sadness while Yui and Kendo comforted her. Izuku K, but the real question is, why are we here? He said seriously. Izuku S, by Kingpin, he said this seriously. All Kingpin? They said confusedly. Izuku S, think about it. Who is the only one who could bring Spider-Mans from another dimension here, he said seriously. Ibra, Kingpin, she said, a little scared. Always, but you put that guy in jail, he said, somewhat scared. Izuku D, Kingpin is someone powerful. Always, he wouldn't stay in jail for even 2 days, so are you sure he is? How will we get home? He said seriously. Izuku K, we will go with Kingpin, we will leave him on the verge of death, then we will ask him how to get back and we will kill him, he said seriously. Everyone at that moment was in shock. It was really so natural for this Izuku to kill someone. Izuku D, killing is not in my rules, he said seriously. We are not God to decide who lives and who dies, he said seriously. At that moment everyone was impressed as the Izuku who looked more imposing maintained his rule of never killing. Izuku, you know, he said this so everyone could see, I'm new to this. Although I can beat the strongest man in the world in my land, I don't know how things are around here, but I just want to go back home, with Yui. I don't want to leave her alone, so let's do our best to stop that Kingpin guy, he said with a smile. At that moment all the boys looked at the green-haired boy with some tenderness. He was very calm and innocent, he just wanted to go home with his girlfriend. Izuku S, but we need a name, right? He said confused. Izuku K, hey there, Team Izuku, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Izuku D, very unoriginal, how about it, Daredevil Team, he said, this confusing everyone. All Daredevil? They said confused. Izuku D. It's the name of my team in my dimension, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Izuku S. How's your gear, Spider-Man? He said with a smile. Izuku D. But Monoma is not one of us, he said, confusing everyone. All Monoma? They said confusedly. Izuku D. Yes, he is Spider-Man in my dimension, he said, this surprising everyone. Monoma, am I one of the only ones in your dimension with powers? He said excitedly. Izuku D. No, you are Spider-Man thanks to a suit that Mayhatsum created, he said, smiling. Izuku S. Well, here I am, Spider-Man, me, and I think that since it is my dimension you should call us Team Spider-Man, he said, smiling. Izuku D. And why not Team Daredevil, huh? He said, somewhat annoyed. Izuku K. If we are like this, then why don't we call ourselves Team Stylex? He said, somewhat annoyed. Izuku S. I guess your hero name, he said, while Izuku K agreed. Izuku E just watched this from afar while sitting next to Yui. Yui, and why don't you go with them? He said, confused. Izuku E. I just don't like conflicts, he said with a smile. I know, he said, attracting everyone's attention. Why don't we call ourselves Defenders? He said with a smile. Izuku D. Defenders, it's a good name, he said with a smile. Izuku K. It works for me, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Izuku S. Yes, it's okay, he said, this one also with a smile. Yui, you are very good at this, she said, laughing a little. Izuku E. Hey, do you think? He said with a blush, lowering his head. Girls, how cute, they thought in unison. Kinoko, so what are you going to do now? She said, confused, while everyone watched them. Izuku E. We'll go for that son of a hitch, she said, this in an innocent way. At that moment everyone looked at him in surprise. They thought he wasn't saying anything rude, and he realized this. Izuku E. Is it something bad? He said, confused. Setsuna told me to tell Yui when we were alone, he said, putting a finger on his cheek. All, how innocent, they said in unison. Yui, when you're with myself over there, never, listen to me, never say that word to him, seriously, she said, while Izuku E nodded with a salute in the form of a military. Izuku S. Well, then let's wait until nightfall to go, he said calmly, while everyone agreed. After that day something strange happened. Since the Izuku interacted with each other, Izuku introduced them to Ibra, who was his girlfriend, and for some strange reason the three of them blushed at her smile. Izuku K just turned around. He already had a wife, or wives. Izuku D also just moved away since he knew that she was not his Ibra and that she was the girlfriend of his old self. And Izuku E, well. Izuku E, wow, that's a beautiful smile, he said with a small blush almost like Yui's, he said, smiling. At that moment Yui blushed a little. Yui, it's not from here, it's not from here, it's not from here, she repeated this many times. Ibara, Izuku, he said, he is looking at his Izuku. The four of them, what? They said in unison, making everyone sweat. Ibara, my Izuku, she said with a drop of sweat. The three, oh, they said to turn around to continue playing cards. Izuku S, what's wrong, princess? He said, hugging Ibara. Ibara, promise that you will take them home, she said, staring at the green-haired boy. I can't help but feel empathy for them because, well, they are you, and just as I love you, there are people who love them, she said, hiding in Izuku's chest. Izuku S, I'll take them home, I promise, and when all this is over, we'll go on vacation. The year is about to end, he said with a smile while kissing Ibara. I love you, he said, hugging her. Ibara, I love you too, she said, hugging him tighter. After that the day passed until nightfall came. Izuku D, it's time to go, he said while everyone agreed. Ibara, Izuku promises that you will return, she said, worried. Izuku S, I always do, and if it were up to you, I would cross death to be with you again, he said while kissing her. Izuku K, well, lovebirds, it's time to go, he said while everyone agreed. It was nice to meet you. I hadn't spent much time with Class B, but you are good people, he said, smiling. Izuku D, even though they are not mine, they are very nice. I love them, he said calmly. All, does he love us? These confused people thought. Izuku E, although I don't know most of you, you are very good people. Although here Kendo is stricter and Reiko is more serious, he said, laughing a little. Take care of yourself. Yes, he said, looking at Yui while she agreed. We'll see each other sometime, he said, laughing. Izuku S. I'm from here, so I have nothing to say, he said, laughing. Don't wait up for me, he said, to give Ibra one last kiss and leave with the others defenders. Izuku K / Izuku D / Izuku E, defend, they shouted the same. Izuku S. Come on, he said this too. In another place. Kingpin, then that will be your job, he said with a malicious smile. If I help you, it's only because I want to go home, he said angrily. Kingpin, yes, of course you will return, but you must kill them if you want to leave, understood? He said, smiling macabrely. Understood, he said seriously, but then used a smile. They won't even know that I hit them. The Decuverse Final PT3. We can see how our group of heroes headed through the buildings, to Kingpin's apartment. Since they knew very well that the reactor was there, they quickly tried to avoid people so that no one would see them. They placed themselves on a construction claw and prostrated themselves to see the building. Izuku S. Ready to go home? He said with a smile. Izuku K. Ready, he said with a smile. Izuku E. I just want to get back with you, he said with a smile. Izuku D. I don't have anyone to go back to, but I want to go back, he said, also smiling. Izuku S. If we get out of this, I think I'll retire from being Spider-Man for a while, he said with a smile. I want to spend more time with my girlfriend. I want peace, he said with a calm smile. Izuku D. Peace will never be achieved as long as there are bad people, meaning you will never have peace, he said, smiling a little. Izuku K. Are you a poet or something like that? He asked, laughing a little. Izuku D. I don't know, life can be full of surprises, he said with a slight smile. Izuku S. Hey, and before we go, how is your life over there? This curious guy said. Izuku D. My parents died and now I fight crime as Daredevil, he said seriously. Izuku K. My family mistreated me for not having a quirk until All Might gave me one for all and I became a great hero, but I went to another dimension where I have my wonderful wives and children. Now I just want to get back with them, he said with a smile. Izuku E. My parents live abroad but they almost never call me. The only one who calls me is my mother, but it's only to ask me about my training. She always forced me to train since I can remember, he said, somewhat sad. And yours? He said, looking at Izuku S. Izuku S. My family treated me well, but it was all fake. One time they called me telling me that they never loved me and that I was useless. After that, the only family I have left is Ibra, which I will defend with my life, he said with a smile. Izuku D. Can't the Izuku Midoriya have a functional family at least in one world? He said, laughing. Izuku S. That will be the author's problem, he said, laughing. Izuku's author? They asked, confused. Izuku S. Oh, nothing, look, it's time to go, he said this so that everyone agreed. Izuku K put Izuku E on his back while jumping with the Ofa. Izuku D climbed on Izuku S's back so that he could carry him with his web. After that they fell into the window of the building. They were able to enter stealthily until they arrived. These without pain or glory entered the elevator to go downstairs. The henchmen and Izuku V were already waiting for them. In the elevator, it was a somewhat awkward silence as the four of them settled in. Izuku D. The enemies are waiting for us below, he said seriously. Izuku S. Okay, get ready, he said this awkwardly. The silence was really awkward. Izuku D, to break the silence, started making music-like sounds with his sticks. Izuku D. Mac Izuku, he said this while clashing his sticks. Mac Waki Waki, he said this while simulating beatbox. In that, Izuku E creates 2 columns of solid water to the point of turning them into ice, and also begins to touch them while accompanying Izuku D in the beatbox. At that moment, Izuku S began to hit the metal parts of his suit to make noise, and Izuku K began to accompany him on the beatbox. This continued until when the elevator went down they saw how everyone was already on guard. Izuku's, they said in a war cry. At that moment the 4 Izuku launched themselves against the guards that they managed to stop in an extremely easy way. They continued, they went up to the reactor, they were about to launch themselves but something interrupted them. A blow that was capable of destroying the entire building, which caught the attention of the journalists. Class 1B. Tetsu. It's on the news, he said this so that everyone could watch the television to be able to follow the fight. With Izuku. Izuku D. What the hell was that? He said this annoyingly. Izuku V. Oh, hello my handsome companions, he said as he emerged from the shadows. Everyone was in shock. It was another Izuku. But this one looked darker, this one looked evil. Izuku, a villain me? He said seriously, although very handsome I must say, he said while the Izukus agreed, making a drop of sweat come out of everyone. Kingpin, finish them all, he said with a smile. Everyone was in shock. Kingpin had been released from prison. The heroes wanted to go to the place, but they would be more of a hindrance than a help. They just watched, waiting for the moment to capture him. Izuku, I'll take care of him, he said, walking towards Kingpin. In 1B. Yui, what are you doing? She said worriedly. Monoma, why do you say that? He said, confused like everyone else. Yui, he is technically a child in this fighting thing. This is his first time. They will kill him, she said, worried. But everyone fell silent when they felt a great power. Almost all of Japan felt it. Izuku had released all his power. This scared Kingpin a little when he saw how the boy released water, fire, wind, and light. Pieces of earth flew around him. Izuku, shall we play? He said mockingly. In 1B. Kendo, you said? He said, impressed. Yui, nothing, she said the same. Izuku had finished off Kingpin in a very fast way, even more than the previous time when Spider-Man defeated him. This when seeing Kingpin fainted, he took him to where the officers and gave them to him so he could go back to the battle. Izuku, no, what did they do? They killed the only bastard who could bring her back to me, he said angrily. Izuku, what? He said confused. Did you really believe that? He said, confusing Izuku. Izuku, what do you mean? He said confused. Izuku, they just need to jump into the reactor, and everyone will return to their own dimension, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Izuku just gave himself a face palm for not having thought of it before. Izuku, are you serious? He said, somewhat irritated, while all the Izukus agreed. Damn, there you go, wash it, he said, to jump into the portal. Wait for me, Kinoko. I'm almost there, he said with a smile, to disappear into the portal. Izuku, and there went our epic confrontation, he said, crossing his arms. Well, it was nice meeting you, but I want to go back to my family, he said, bumping his fist with everyone. See you later, assholes, he said, to launch himself. Izuku, I can't wait for those caresses from Yui. I love you guys. It's good to know that we're not alone in the universe, he said with a smile, so that the two of them acknowledged. See you later, he said, this one as well, to jump through the portal. Izuku, well, it's just you and I left, he said with a smile. Izuku, take care of your own. Never let anything happen to them, he said, smiling. See you, Spider-Man, he said while removing the bandana from his head, making several who were watching the news and several heroines blush, and he jumped into the portal. Izuku, see you guys, he said, laughing. He quickly reached the reactor button with a spider web and turned it off under everyone's highlighted gaze. He quickly went down and headed towards a camera. Reporter, what does Spider-Man have to tell us? She said excitedly. Izuku, for more than 3 years I have dedicated myself to being Spider-Man, and all this has always brought problems, he said, laughing a little. I have always been hurt, I have been hit, I have been defeated, but I always find a way to get up, he said, smiling at those watching the news. But as of today I want to announce that I am retiring as Spider-Man for a while, he said while taking off his mask, making several blush. I want to dedicate more time to my things. I have been a professional hero at 15 years old. I want to follow the quiet path. I will finish the academy and I will return as Spider-Man. I want to be someone my age. With problems of my age, he said, laughing a little, and this goes for the new generations that this is their first year as a hero. There will be many cases where they see themselves defeated, where they cannot win. But always remember this motto: your mask, anyone can wear it, but it is your decision if you use for good. So every time you see yourself defeated, just repeat these words, plus all ultra, they said with small tears. Reporter, thank you for everything you've done for us, hero Spider-Man, he said with a smile. Izuku Midoriya, he said this calmly to leave. When Izuku left, the camera only recorded where he was going. People had different reactions, some were sad but they understood the boy's decision. Report, and there he goes, a boy who at his age has been a great hero, someone great, and I wouldn't be surprised if in his next debut he becomes the #1 hero very soon. Izuku Midoriya, Japan thanks you. Izuku with a smile alone headed towards his bedrooms where everyone was waiting for him with a big smile. Ibra only threw herself to hug him while kissing him and light tears fell. Izuku also began to laugh while crying lightly. Everything was over, his problems, his worries stopping being Spider-Man. It wasn't so bad. Because knowing that you are never alone. Izuku is seen looking at the great view from the unhappy tower. Mizuhara, come on honey, the girls and boys are already downstairs. You're the only one missing, she said while holding Izuku's hand, and he nodded. It's kind of comforting. Izuku is seen being caressed by Yui. Izuku, I love your caresses, she said like a child. Yui, I already love you, she said while kissing him. And I know that when I need one of them they will come here. The Daredevil team is seen in Bakugo's room. Izuku, well, Monoma, it's time to go, he said while Monoma agreed. Bakugo, take care nerd, he said with a smile. Izuku, I always do, he said smiling. Always. Time skip. Izuku, beautiful. I'm leaving now, he said as he opened the door. Ibara, are you leaving already, darling? She said, giving him a kiss. Akimo, oh, where are you going, daddy? Said a little green-haired girl with thorns in her hair and almost imperceptible claws on her fingers. Izuku, your father has to be a hero, little one, he said with a smile, but he gets closer to Ibara's ear. Don't think I've forgotten that today is our anniversary. I'll give you your gift tonight, he said, blushing at Ibara as she agreed. Then Izuku gave Ibara a kiss on the lips and one on the forehead to his daughter, and headed towards a building. It looks like Izuku was running in one. Izuku, well, let's start again. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and for more than 14 years I have been the only, unmatched Spider-Man. You already know the rest. I saved the city, I fell in love, I got married, I even had a daughter. My wife is the best wife in the world and I love her like you can't imagine, oh yeah. And I also crashed into a drone, he said laughing, and well, that's how I became the only, unmatched Spider-Man, he said with a smile. Now you see how Izuku fell into bed shirtless next to Ibra, who was only wearing lingerie. Izuku, I love you, he said this as he picked up Ibra and started to carry her against the wall. Ibra, and the girl, she said confused. Izuku, Bakugo is taking care of her, he said to start undressing Ibra. With Bakugo. Akimo, so this is how you kill a person, interesting, he said. It's on Bakugo's legs. But in that you see how someone slaps Bakugo. Momo, don't teach those things to the girls, she said somewhat annoyed. Bakugo, come on honey, it never hurts, he said laughing a little. Akimo, and Momo, how did you and Uncle Bakugo meet? She said with a smile. Bakugo/Momo, well. With Izuku. Izuku, I love you, Ibara Shiozaki, he said with a smile while kissing her. Ibara, I love you too, Izuku Midoriya. You see that I was right, she said while Izuku smiled. Izuku, you're right, together we achieved a bright future. Origins remake. Okay, how was this going? Oh yeah? My name is Izuku Midoriya. I was bitten by a radioactive spider and for more than 10 years I have been acting as the one and only Spider-Man. My life was always boring, there was never anything interesting in it. I lived from home to school and from school to home, but I always had one goal, to get into the UA. In order to enter the prestigious academy. By the way, their security is not that good. You needed to be from a powerful family, or have the best grades. I honestly don't even know how I managed to get in, but hey, I get too tangled up telling my life stories, so why don't I show you where I came from? The origin of Spider-Man. 12 years ago. A young man with disheveled green hair, a gray sweatshirt, and slightly tired eyes could be seen. And Inko, I'll go with Nito, see you later. Okay Izuku, just don't be late, and pick up Izumi please, work at the hospital today will be very busy. A woman shouted from the kitchen. Izuku, okay mom, I'll pass, he said taking his skateboard to leave his house and close the door. I walked down the stairs of the apartment complex where I lived at a little speed until I got completely down. Infringement, said a guard giving him a ticket. Izuku, really Mr. Rodell? Another one? And now why was it? He asked irritated. Rodell, you ran down the stairs, it is forbidden to run in the hallways, he said extending his hand. Izuku, well, it's the last $5 I have, A daily fine, he said sarcastically, turning his head, but without stopping to look at the guard. It will leave me poor. Rodel, do you want another one? Izuku, and no sir, I was leaving, he said, this nervous man. Rodel, fine, that's how I like it, say hello to Nito for me. Izuku, how do you know that? Rodel, you and him always break some of my flower pots with your skateboards. Please don't let it happen again, or I'll be forced to charge you another $5, he said, laughing a little, making Izuku laugh too. Izuku, okay, Mr. Rodel, see you later, he said as he started running, throwing his skateboard to the ground and then getting on the. Rodel, good brat, take care, he said with a few small laughs as he entered his office again. Izuku was going downhill on his skateboard, enjoying the breeze hitting his face. The descent ended, so now it was his turn to push himself with his own foot. The suburban streets of Japan were very quiet compared to the roads. No car bothered, and the occasional motorcycle was a little frequent. Izuku got excited when he saw a steep slope again, so without hesitation he let himself fall down it. Izuku was very scared when he saw how there were cars parked due to the traffic, since that was the street to get to the highway. The speed at which he was going increased. It was inevitable that he would crash into the car, so closing his eyes he accepted his fate until. Hey, old man, a boy shouted, grabbing him tightly, and they both fell to the ground. The green-haired boy, feeling a little pain, opened his eyes to face his destiny, only to see that he hadn't collided with anything. Izuku, what? Did you really almost die there? He asked sarcastically. Izuku, Monoma, old man, I would kiss you if you were a woman, he said with a nervous smile. Monoma, I know, brother, I know, he said with a calm smile, helping him up ready to hold the sign. Izuku, yeah man, it'll be a good way to make money, he said this, so Monoma would nod. Fine, then just let me go get my paw. They both see how the skid reaches the end of the steep slope and a car passes over it, breaking it in half. Monoma, well, it can be fixed. Another car passed by, breaking it into little pieces and denting the tires. Izuku, damn. Monoma, come on, don't worry, old man, I just fixed your other skateboard. Let's pick it up at my house and then we'll go to the car wash, he said, so the green-haired boy agreed with his gaze downcast. Izuku, well. Monoma, come on, don't feel bad, the skateboard I just built is the best, and I'll give it to you, old man, you must be happy. Izuku, well, worse than nothing. Monoma, what's worse, you idiot? He asked this annoying one. Izuku, don't sit down anymore, come on, he said this to start running, and Monoma, taking his skateboard, started to run behind him. They both arrived at Monoma's house, from which came out a rather tall woman with a beautiful figure. Huh! Izuku, you finally decide to come here. Tell me, how is your aunt and cousin? She asked with a tender smile. Monoma, yes, Mom, I love you too, Monoma said sarcastically, rolling his eyes. Come on, Nito, don't be like that. I suppose they're coming for the other skateboard, right? Izuku, yes, if it weren't for Monoma I would be dead right now, he said, trembling a little. Monoma, okay Mom, we'll go get her and then go to the car wash. Those UA registrations won't pay for themselves, he said, smiling so Izuku would nod. Okay, go up. When you come back you'll have lasagna ready, she said, smiling. Izuku, thank you, ma'am. Monoma, thank you, Mom. They both said in unison to start climbing the stairs. They went up to Monoma's room and quickly took the other skateboard to leave. They said goodbye to their mother and like the devil himself they got on their skateboards to start heading to the car wash. They walked a few blocks until they arrived at the said place. Luckily it had just opened. Hey, Izuku, Nito here, an elderly woman shouted. Izuku, Lady Yayorozu, we're here, he said while breathing a little heavily, trying to catch his breath. I already realized, son, here, have a candy, she said, extending a candy to Izuku and then extending one to Monoma. Monoma, thank you, ma'am. Hey, will your granddaughter come to help us? He asked this confused. Don't get your hopes up, kid, his parents are strict. Monoma, no ma'am, that's not why I'm saying it, he said, laughing a little, and I have a girlfriend. Izuku, do you have a girlfriend? Monoma, yes, you don't remember her, Tamara Amajiki? Izuku, you hooked up with the shy girl? Monoma just shrugged his shoulders. Wow. Okay kids, you're not here to talk about girlfriends. First I need you to clean a few cobwebs off the driveway so I can open the car wash. Izuku's spiders? He said a little nervously. Monoma, excuse him, he's a bit phobic about them, he said laughing. Well, phobia or not, I will recommend you to the UA, so work here to earn it, she said, handing them 2 dusters and a vacuum cleaner. Izuku/Monoma, will you recommend us? They both asked in shock. Surprised, the old lady said with a slight smile, but now work to earn it, she said this so that both of them agreed. Izuku, yes ma'am, he said, making a military salute just like Monoma. Izuku and Monoma took their things and then went to the car wash and began cleaning the dust off the roof, Monoma standing on the green-haired boy's shoulders since either of them was tall enough to reach. Izuku, okay, your turn, he said this so that Monoma would nod and get off. Then Monoma bent down so that the green-haired boy could climb onto his shoulders and continue cleaning the corners of the walls. And what neither of them realized was how a spider with a peculiar appearance began to walk towards them. Izuku nervously cleaned the cobwebs until that spider fell into his hand. Izuku, ah. He pushed the spider with force to the point of crashing it against a wall. Luckily it couldn't bite him. Monoma, what's wrong, old man? He asked worriedly. Izuku, why you go ahead, I'll carry you, he said this so that Monoma would nod and put the green-haired boy down. Same process and same result. Monoma continued cleaning the last traces of spider web from the ceiling, and what neither of them noticed was how the spider got up from the ground again and began to walk towards them. It climbed up Izuku's leg, and due to its light step he didn't notice until it was too late. The green-haired boy gave a small moan of pain. Monoma, now what? He asked irritatedly. Izuku, nothing, I thought it was a mosquito, he said, lightly scratching his neck. Monoma, okay, I'm done, he said, removing the last trace of spider web. Izuku, wow, that's great, now it's time for the posters. Monoma, what's wrong? He asked, confused. Monoma turned in the same direction as the green-haired boy and just laughed a little. She was a rather cute girl. Izuku, who could she be? Monoma, really, old man, her? Izuku, do you know who it is? He asked, confused. Monoma, I only know that his last name is Shiozaki and he's from the new family in the neighborhood, but you're in a tough spot, old man, they're a religious family. Izuku, I'm religious too. Monoma, I think she's a Christian. Izuku, I'm a Christian too, he said with a slightly silly smile. Monoma, and also a lesbian. Izuku, I'm a lesbian too, what? He asked in shock. Monoma, nah, just kidding, he said, starting to laugh. Izuku, Monoma, you are a son of a. But Izuku quickly fell and became nervous as he watched the strange girl approach the car wash. Shiozaki, little girl, the old lady in charge said happily. Ibara, good afternoon, Mrs. Yayorozu. My mother sent me to leave you this cake. She says it is for you, the girl said with a tender smile. Oh, tell your mother that she wouldn't have been upset, she said with a big smile. You don't think she'll be upset if I give some to my star workers, right? She asked, smiling. Ibara, I doubt it very much, she responded with the same smile. Come, I want to introduce you to them, the old woman said, taking the girl's hand, who only smiled with some tenderness and approval. Monoma, old man, he's coming this way. Izuku, I know, he said this nervously. Kids, look, this is Ibara Shiozaki, she's our new neighbor. Ibara, hello, it's a pleasure, she said with a tender smile. Monoma, hey, nice to meet you, Nito Monoma, he said waving his hand. Izuku Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya, and nice to meet you, he said, tilting his head with a blush. Ibara, well, Nito Monoma and Midoriya Izuku Midoriya, a pleasure to you too, she said, laughing a little funny. Well, I have to help arrange the move. It was a pleasure, she said this so that everyone agreed and the girl began to accelerate her pace to leave. Izuku, wait, the girl turns around confused. Do you want to have a coffee someday? I don't know, or should I invite you to breakfast tonight? He asked nervously while Monoma mentally slapped himself. Ibara just laughs tenderly. Ibara, the coffee is fine, my house is next to the church, 2 blocks from here. Come whenever you want, she said, making a small bow so that the green-haired man would return it, and Ibra would simply leave. Monoma, dude, you're so stupid and so smart at the same time. Son, I am very proud of you, the old woman said with light tears, but now go move those signs if you want cake, she ordered this. Yes, ma'am. They both shouted as they grabbed the signs and stood outside to start moving them. And so the day passed for both of them, waving signs and dancing with them, and the car wash had gone very well. They had a lot of customers until the end of the day, where neither Izuku nor Minoma could move anymore. Well, you did a good job. Have some lemonade, said the old woman approaching with a jug. Izuku, Lady Yayorozu, I honestly don't feel very well. Can I go home now? He asked, confused. Yes, son, you did an excellent job. Say hello to your family. He said this so that Izuku nodded heavily. Izuku, well, old man, see you tomorrow. He said this to start walking towards the subway station. Minoma, aren't you going on the skate? Izuku, step, I don't even want to walk, you say. He said this so that the lady and Minoma would laugh a little. Minoma, fine, I'll tell my mother to save you some lasagna. He said this so that Izuku simply raised his thumb and disappeared into the distance. So did you like little Ibara? She asked calmly while serving some lemonade for her and Minoma. Minoma, yes, I think so. I've never seen him act like that. Well, the damned guy is lucky. She will also get into the UA. And guess who recommended her? She said with a small laugh of pride. Minoma, I should have guessed, he said, laughing a little. But then they both saw a limousine park in front of them. Okay, they're coming for me. Do you want me to drop you off at your house, son? Minoma, if it's not too much trouble, he said with a nervous smile. With Izuku. He was resting on the subway couch. He was tired, so he slept a little. A short girl was next to him writing some things down in a notebook, and on the other side of him there was a group of people drinking. One of those people with a bit of grace approached the sleeping green-haired man, and thought it was funny to balance his beer on his forehead. Hey, I don't think I should do tea, that the girl next to her said a little shyly. Don't get involved, girl, nobody talked to you. He said this annoyed man so that the girl, scared, simply sank in her place. The man balanced the beer on his forehead, and Izuku didn't even notice due to his sleepiness, but a small drop of water began to fall from the beer, running from the neck of the bottle to the bottom and hitting Izuku's nose. At that moment, everyone stepped back in fear as they saw how he stood up with force, and with one jump he hit the ceiling, knocking over the beer that was in front of him. What is that? One of the people asked, confused. Izuku at that moment became confused, and turning to look up he saw his hands and quickly took off from the ceiling to fall to the ground and take a few steps back. What did that boy do? The strange girl asked, confused from her seat, watching everything. Oh, how disgusting, now I'm going to smell like beer, said one of the women, irritated. Izuku at that moment quickly got up from the ground and went towards her. Izuku, I'm really sorry, he said sadly, taking her by the shoulder as a sign of apology. Izuku at that moment tried to remove his hand from her shoulder, but he simply couldn't. It seemed as if his hand had stuck to the girl's clothing. Stop touching her, said the same man who had put the beer on his forehead, annoyed. Izuku, yes, I try, but my hand, he said nervously. Then the angry man gave him a hard push which ended up sending Izuku against one of the subway posts, but curiously the girl's shirt didn't come off his hand, and when he pushed him he also ripped it off. At that moment everyone started laughing a little. Who do you think you are? The same man asked, annoyed. Izuku, sorry, I don't. He tried to apologize but looked at the ground to avoid seeing the woman while he extended his hand trying to stop the fight. How dare you make fun of me? He asked this annoying man to one of his drinking companions. Hit him, one of the many shouted. Hey! The excluded girl was going to warn Izuku that they were going against him, but her surprise came when she saw how Izuku, spinning in the tube to which he had been stuck, kicked the man in the back of the thigh, causing him to start screaming as he fell to the ground. Izuku, sorry, hey, are you okay? He asked, scared and worried. But Izuku felt a slight pain in his head, as if something was alerting him. His body quickly reacted on his own and using the small metal tube as a support to kick the guy who was going to hit him, leaving him on the ground, falling to the ground as well. The bigger guy tried to grab Izuku's legs to immobilize him, but with a kick he sent him backwards, crashing into another one of them. The last one left alone stood on guard and saw Izuku skate. Izuku also saw his skate. Izuku, no, please. The guy takes his skateboard. Izuku, not my board. Not that. Izuku simply turned his gaze as he saw his board being broken when it hit his arm, but for some reason, he didn't feel any pain. Another guy tried to hit him, but Izuku, twisting around himself, kicked him. The pipe, unable to withstand the force, ended up being torn off, hitting the bottoms of both times that were against him, and when he ducked, it hit their faces, thus leaving everyone unconscious. Izuku, seriously, please excuse me. This nervous man apologized as he saw everyone unconscious. The drinker's companions only hid in a corner, and the strange girl only saw Izuku for a moment. Izuku, sorry. And no problem for me, said the girl, a little scared. At that moment the tube finally detached itself from Izuku's hand, and Izuku just looked at his hand for a moment. Muzurifu, next stop, next and last stop, Muzurifu. Izuku walked through the streets confused until he finally arrived at his apartments. Luckily Rodel was not there to see him in that state. It seemed strange. Izuku entered his house, slamming the door with a little force, drawing Inko's attention. And Izumi. Izuku, hello, sorry it's late and… Inko, you had us very worried. Izuku, you didn't even pick up Izumi, she said, this upset. Izuku, I know, sorry, be careful. Inko jumped back a little out of fear only to see how Izuku had caught a fly between his fingers. Izuku just stared at the fly for a moment as if it were the most interesting thing in the world, but what stood out most about him was that he was very sweaty. Inko, it's a fly, Izuku, she said, confused. Izuku, a little dazed, just let her go and tried to answer something to Inko, but he simply couldn't, and just moved his hand from side to side to let her know that he was fine. Izuku, yes, he whispered in confusion as he passed the tips of his fingers over his mouth. It took a while for Izuku to fix his gaze on both women. Izuku, sorry, seriously, I kept you awake, I was inconsiderate, he said while Inko nodded, a little disconcerted and confused and irresponsible. And hungry, he said, giving Inko a kiss on the cheek to head to the kitchen. Izuku at that moment opened the refrigerator and took out what seemed to be a tray of meat while Inko and Izumi only watched from the living room confused. Izuku, meatloaf, he whispered, starting to eat the cold meat while looking at the different notes written on the refrigerator. Izumi, did you drink? She asked, confused while Inko began to deny. Izuku, what is this? Inko, I don't think so, she shook her head. Izuku, is this Izumi's meatball? He asked, breathing heavily while eating the meat. It's better than any other meatball, he said with a big smile. Izumi, he's acting really weird, she said while holding the two parts of Izuku's board. Inko, yes, nobody likes your meatball, she said, surprised so that Izumi turned to look at her a little upset. Then they both looked a little impressed at the large amount of food that Izuku was carrying in his hands. One of them was about to fall, but he took them in his arms, making Izumi stop his hand to help him. Izuku, I got it, he said, nodding nervously as he went up the stairs under the gaze of Inko and Izumi. Izumi, he took the frozen macaroni, she said, surprised. Inko, yes, I noticed. Izumi, why didn't you tell me that you didn't like my meatball? She said, a little upset, turning to look at her mother. Inko, Izumi, she said with a nervous smile. Izumi, you could have told me more than 3 years ago. How many meatballs I have prepared, she said, a little upset as she left the parts of Izuku's board to Inko. Inko just gave a big sigh at this. With Izuku. He ran water over his face and began rubbing his eyes with some force. It took a moment for him to stop and look at himself in the mirror. He began to have slight spasms and a little pain in his neck. Confused, he began to pass his hands through it, and saw how a small rope came out of it. Confused, Izuku took the rope in his hands and forcefully pulled it out only to feel a slight pain in his neck, but as he lifted the rope he began to see with a little fear how the spider he had crushed was hanging from it, now dead. He threw the spider to the ground again, but this time he stepped on it, making sure it died. Then he looked at himself in the mirror again, and began to feel a strong pain in his head and specifically throughout his body while his hands trembled more and more. Izuku, what's happening to me? He whispered, scared. Docs and Skate Remake. Izuku found himself waking up a little sore from the day before. his limbs still felt a little cramped from all the time he spent moving the signs. But he wouldn't waste his day. He knew what he was going to do. Izuku woke up before his alarm clock went off, but he didn't stop it from going off. A little tormented by the noise, he tried to turn off the alarm clock, hitting it with a little force, breaking it. Izuku, what? He asked himself, surprised. Then the green-haired boy saw for a moment his destroyed alarm clock and began to touch it, looking for some explanation as to why it could have been destroyed, but he quickly removed his finger when he felt a small shock. Izuku, meh, it was already a bit old, he said, downplaying it by shrugging his shoulders. Disregarding the alarm clock, he simply got out of bed and went to his small bathroom in his room. He turned on the sink and began to wash his face and lightly wet his hair. Izuku, who is less than 5 days away from entering UA. That boy. She pointed to the mirror she was looking at herself in, and with a big smile she finished lightly moistening her hair to turn off the water stream. At the moment of doing it, Izuku felt as if something had stuck to his hand, but he couldn't react when a jet of water hit him. Izuku, what the buck? Izuku watched in confusion as the water key broke and stuck to his hand, as water began to pour out in droves. Izuku tried to turn it off, but ended up breaking another part of the pipe, causing the sink to fall to the ground and break. Inko, what was that? Izuku, nothing, Aunt Inko. Then the green-haired boy took one of the towels that he had hanging there and wrapped it around the water pipe so that the towel would begin to absorb it. With a big sigh, he saw his bathroom and simply got out of it. Izuku took one of the many shirts he had there and put it on along with some shorts and white sneakers. He put on his cap, some deodorant, lotion, and left his room. He quickly went down the stairs just to see Inko and Izumi having breakfast in a very peaceful way. Inko, are you going to have breakfast, are you? She asked, confused. Izuku, no, Aunt, I'm going out today, he said, looking at himself in the living room mirror. Izumi, and who are you going out with? She asked, confused. Izuku, with someone. Hey, do you still have that chain with a cross at the end? He asked, confused. So Izumi agreed. Izumi, it's in my room, you can take it, but take care of it, it's expensive. She said this, so Izuku nodded with a big smile. Then the green-haired boy quickly went up the stairs again and opened his cousin's door. By the time he realized it was too late, he had broken the knob. Izuku, a little confused and scared, simply dropped it, trying to make as little noise as possible. He entered, took the chain in his hands and left. Back down in the living room, the green-haired man looked at himself in the mirror while he put on his chain and put on a little more lotion. Inko, Izuku, if you continue like this, you'll scare the girl away with your smell. Izuku, but it's Tia lotion. Inko, but if you take too much it can make you dizzy and the other girl nauseous, she said while giving her a bread with peanut butter and jelly for breakfast on the road. Here, 2,000 yen. Then the green-haired boy took the money that Inko handed him while he bit into his sandwich. He was seen for the last time and was about to leave when Inko stopped him. Inko, wait. Izuku, what's wrong, Tia? He asked, confused. Then Inko lightly licked her finger to pass it along the green-haired boy's cheek, removing traces of jelly that were on it. Inko, good, impress her, she said while raising her thumb. Izuku, the funny thing is that I didn't even tell you it was with a girl. Inko, Tia's instinct, she shouted with a smile as she returned to the kitchen. Izuku, okay, I'll see you later, he said goodbye to cross the door while Inko and Izumi agreed. So Inko and Izumi just stared at the door for a while, watching as Izuku walked away and it closed on its own. Inko, pay, she said, extending her hand for Izumi to give her 2,000 yen. Izumi, I really thought he was gay, just look at him, he's cute, porcelain skin, he takes care of his hygiene, he's like a girl, she said with a pout, looking away. Inko, but taking care of herself like a girl doesn't mean she's a, she said with a smile, while counting the money. Izuku walked a little quickly through the streets of Japan. Many girls saw him and he cared less. 15 minutes passed, and he passed by the car wash where he saw that day he was being served by Mrs. Yayoro's granddaughter. So passing by he began his journey, finding the girl's house. Izuku swore he drove around the car wash like 5 times and still couldn't find the girl's house, until he remembered. Izuku, It was a house, next to a church, he said, slapping himself as he began to run to the said place. It was rather a small church, but it was meant to be welcoming, which did very well. Now he had to find out which of the two houses it was, until he remembered the family name and headed towards where the inscription was. Izuku, well Izuku, she is a pretty girl, you are someone ugly, something that no one has achieved, but you will do it today, well he slaps himself. Then the green-haired boy, with all the confidence he has gained, walks forward and rings the beauty. Izuku, you say hello, invite her for coffee, avoid her father, and leave it's very. Who are you? Izuku, Gigi, good afternoon, sir, he said a little nervously. Shit, Izuku thought. Come on, Dad, don't scare him, he's the cool guy I told you about yesterday. Good afternoon, Izuku, Ibra said with a tender smile that made the green-haired boy blush a little. Izuku? The father asked, confused. Ibara, come on, don't be conservative, I'll go have a coffee with him, you're coming, right? She asked, confused, so the green-haired boy would nod. Fine, but before you go, what family are you from? Izuku, I am from the Midoriya, sir, this scared man said. Wait, Izumi Midoriya, is that your sister? Izuku, she's my cousin, sir, why? Your sister is Izumi Midoriya, oh boy. You must tell her that she must visit her old master one day, he said with a nostalgic smile. Izuku, you were his teacher? But of what? He asked, confused. Ibara, my father was a karate master, I guess that's what it's all about, she said with a small drop of sweat so that her father would nod. Izumi Midoriya, my best student, black belt and champion for 4 consecutive years, I don't know why she retired. But she retired undefeated, he said with a proud smile. And tell me, boy, so she is your cousin, who are your parents? He asked, confused. Izuku, well. Izuku at that moment with a slightly uncomfortable smile points to the sky. Ibara just clenched her teeth a little in discomfort, widening her eyes just like her father with regret. Oh, sorry kid, that wasn't my. Izuku, no, don't worry, it happened years ago, he said, preventing him from apologizing. Okay, I won't interrupt you any longer, go get your coffee, he said with a calm smile so that Izuku and Ibara approved. Izuku and Ibara began to walk further and further away from the house, although either of them had any topics of conversation, until Izuku came up with one. Izuku, hey, what university are you going to get into? He asked with a nervous smile. Ibara, well, I will enter the UA, luckily Mrs. Yayorozu recommended me, she said with a calm smile. Izuku, really? Me too, he said with a big smile. Ibara, wow, you really like the idea of entering UA, right? She asked between small laughs. Izuku, sorry, it's just that it's always been my dream to go in there, he said, laughing a little nervously while scratching the back of his neck. Ibara, no, don't apologize, I don't blame you, getting into UA by recommendation is very difficult, only important people can recommend you. Luckily we both know Mrs. Yayorozu, she said with a tender smile so that Izuku would nod. Izuku, wait, is Mrs. Yayorozu important? He asked, confused, so that Ibara started laughing a little harder. Ibara, oh, you are very distracted, huh? She asked with a slightly mocking smile. Izuku, well, I always thought that the limousine and butlers were just a whim, he said, this making Ibara laugh a little more. Ibara, oh, I've never laughed so much, she said, taking a breath. Well, I know a good coffee shop nearby. Come on, let's go, she said, taking Izuku by the shoulders to start pushing him towards this coffee shop. Their afternoon was quiet. When they arrived at the cafeteria, they were chatting among themselves about their lives, what their plans were for the future, the usual thing in the first meeting. After their quiet afternoon, Izuku took Ibara to his house. Obviously, he would take advantage of every moment to be with her, until they arrived. Ibara, well, here we say goodbye, she gives him a kiss on the cheek. Izuku, why yes, we'll see each other another day, he said with a somewhat silly smile as he began to walk towards his house. Ibara, hey Izuku. Izuku, why yes, Shiozaki? He asked a little blushing. Ibara, well, at UA they open dormitories, and I need someone to help me with my bags. Ibara put her hands together in a sign of supplication, while she closed her eyes tightly. At that moment the green-haired boy just laughed a little and nodded. Izuku, I'll be here 20 minutes before 8. Ibra, good, thanks Midoriya. When you come I will pay you with a cake, she said with a big smile, so that the green-haired boy nodded with the same and began to go to his house. The green-haired boy just raised his thumb and ran away under small giggles from Ibra. Oh daughter, you're here, she said with a big smile. Ibra, yes mom, I'm already home, she said with a calm smile. Apparently God did a miracle for you. You didn't have to wait long to go out with that guy, plus he's kind of cute. Ibra, Mom, don't say it out loud, she said with a big blush. Come on daughter, he's your first friend, you should feel proud, come on, let's go and so you can tell me. Ibra, yes, well it all started when we arrived at the cafeteria. Izuku ran with a big smile through the streets of Japan. His happiness could not fit inside him. Izuku, I don't notice that I'm ugly, he shouted with emotion. Minoma, well it's just a matter of time before he realizes you're horrible. Izuku, ah, he screamed, falling to the ground. Minoma? Minoma, what's up? He asked with a calm smile. Izuku, what are you doing here, old man? Minoma extends the skateboard. Old man, did you really repair it so fast? He asked, surprised. Minoma, I shouldn't even give it to you, you know, but well, since there you have it, just take care of it. He said this seriously so that Izuku with a drop of sweat agreed. Izuku, fine, I'll tell Izumi and my aunt to wait for me later. I'll go try it at the pier. Are you coming? He asked, confused. This time of day is very quiet. Minoma, no man, I'm sorry, I'm going out with Tamara. Izuku, oh yes, that's true, well, say hello to her, he shouted as he began to run to gain momentum with the skateboard. Minoma, you know I don't. Izuku gets lost in the distance. If Tamara sees that idiot she'll fall in love, he said with a big sigh before starting to walk in the opposite direction. Izuku arrived at the dock, and without giving it much thought, he began testing the newly improved skateboard. It was somewhat fast, but the bad thing is that Izuku couldn't raise it high enough. He began to skate through the different places on the dock, until he reached some gear parts. He tried to hit his hands with a metal beam, but to his surprise he ended up doing a 360-degree turn when his hands stuck to the beam. The green-haired boy for a moment only saw his hands, and began to laugh a little nervously. He had a slight idea of what could be happening to him. Izuku, okay, if I do this. Izuku pushed off his skateboard and tried to jump over a large platform made from a piece of beam, and to his surprise he jumped high, achieving his goal. Izuku at that moment just widened his eyes a little with a surprised smile and saw the large platform. It was seriously too high to jump over. Izuku with a smile just took the skateboard again and began to push himself. He began to try various tricks, and his flexibility, for some reason his body could move in ways he never imagined, allowing him ease in tricks. On some platforms that conveniently had the shape of ramps he began to ride the skateboard. He tried to climb them, but they were too steep. When he tried to climb up, he noticed that he was going to crash into it, so he raised his hands to avoid the impact, which was a big surprise. Izuku, what the? Izuku saw how he had stayed on the steep platform, and this time he secured himself. There was nothing holding him, nor anything he could hold on to. Literally his hand stuck to itself. Izuku with a slightly nervous smile began to climb upwards. He wanted to know if there was any part that kept him stuck, and his surprise was even greater when he even stuck to the ceiling like the day on the subway. He sat on a platform on the roof upside down, and to his amazement he did not fall, and was even able to sit up straight. He watched attentively as a spider wove its webs, and he understood, but he wanted to check it out. And his idea magically took shape when he saw some chains. Izuku at that moment threw himself forcefully from the platform and taking the chains began to swing, hanging from one to the other. To his surprise he stuck to them, as if his hands had a strong glue that prevented him from coming off. Izuku continued for another 15 minutes until he got married, and using the last chain he fell right on a table, knocking down all the screws that were on it. Izuku OH. He gave a primal scream as he felt the adrenaline rush through him. Now he knew what was happening to him. And he liked it.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.